Chapter 101. Duel Club approved. Peaceful days always leave as mercilessly as falling leaves. On Tuesday, Aiden came out of the room of requirement as usual, and a silver phoenix was waiting for him outside the door. There were pupils of different colors reflected in the phoenix's eyes, and the owners of both eyes fell silent. The phoenix opened its mouth, but instead of making a clear cry, an old voice rang out. "Hey, Aiden, can you please come to the office? By the way, you need to use your ability when you come in, and the password is ZZB Candy." With that, the guardian disappeared without a trace, leaving Aiden no chance to ask any questions. Aiden walked all the way to the door of the principal's office, spoke out instructions, hid in the blind spot of his consciousness, walked through the spiral staircase, and entered the office. In his office, Mr. Gilderoy Lockhart was discussing the great prospects of his club. Aiden quietly walked to the sofa and sat down. He sent a little magic fluctuation to the principal. Because of this subtle fluctuation, the principal also noticed Aiden sitting on the sofa. "Look, headmaster, this world is full of dangers, and our little wizard is too lazy. Their spellcasting skills are not as good as a Cornish elf, so they need to be taught. Perhaps I, who know the most about dueling, can organize a dueling club." After saying this, Lockhart showed Dumbledore a confident smile and shining teeth. Dumbledore gave Aiden a look at him. "Look. Aiden. Go for it." Dumbledore's eyes turned more urgent. "Save him." Lockhart seemed to have noticed the headmaster's strange look and followed his gaze towards the sofa, but unfortunately he saw nothing. "Oh, what's the matter, Mr. Principal?" Lockhart asked puzzledly. Snapped. With a crisp snap of his fingers, Lockhart fell into a baby-like sleep. He also rolled down the stairs, and his handsome face came into close contact with the ground. "Aiden, humph, what level are you to use the same adjective as me?" "System, ding, you are beautiful." "Aiden, shut up. So I say this guy might be suitable for Gryffindor. There aren't many brave men who dare to hold the audience in their arms." Aiden quietly complained to the system. "Ding, the meaning of life lies in experience, and committing suicide is also an experience." "Oh, Aiden, you were too harsh. Look at the child. His head is swollen." Dumbledore said this, but there was no pain in his eyes. Aiden walked over to Lockhart and pulled out a black notebook from his arms. "Here, part of one of your most outstanding students." He threw the black notebook onto the table. "This is Tom's." Dumbledore looked through the diary carefully. "It looks like we need to find a way to destroy it." Although the old principal was talking nonsense, Aiden had already seen him carve some runes on the notebook, and the runes quickly merged into the black magic of the notebook. "Okay, stop playing around. You're the one who taught me alchemy. You don't expect to fool me with this trick, do you?" Aiden ruthlessly exposed an old principal who was trying to frame him. "And there are many ways to destroy this thing. You can always get the Sword of Gryffindor. And Fiend Fire, don't tell me you haven't studied your old lover's signature magic." Aiden raised his eyebrows, and Dumbledore stopped being mysterious and said, "Don't be so hard on the old man, and Harry should be given some exercise." Aiden arched his back on the sofa, as if he had returned to his cat bed. "Okay, tell me, when did you realize there was something wrong with Lockhart?" Aiden asked. "To begin with, Aiden, as the headmaster of the school, I always have a little privilege." Dumbledore blinked. "So, how are you going to arrange your savior's level next?" Aiden was lying on the sofa with his legs on the table, looking so relaxed that Dumbledore's eyes twitched. "I won't do anything. I just added a little inducement to Tom's Horcrux to make him focus his whole heart on Harry and the others." Dumbledore's half-moon eyes reflected the light, and his whole body revealed coldness. "Wow, that's too bad." Aiden shrugged. He then stood up and prepared to leave, and Dumbledore threw the diary, which flew into Lockhart's arms. "Wait, Aiden." Dumbledore called out to Aiden. "Anything else?" Aiden turned his head in confusion. Well, wake up Lockhart." Professor Dumbledore pointed at Lockhart awkwardly. Snap. The sound of snapping fingers echoed in the office, and Lockhart woke up from his sleep. I have a headache, and I can't feel my face." Lockhart held his head and looked around in confusion. "I think you must be too tired, Professor Lockhart. Do you still have the energy to deal with the dueling club when you are so tired?" Dumbledore looked at Lockhart with suspicion. Oh, of course I have energy, headmaster. No one has more energy than me. Perhaps, I need an assistant. Lockhart rolled his eyes and began to select from the 4 deans. Professor McGonagall, no, she's an expert in transfiguration. Old headmaster, no, he's a dueling champion. Dean Sprout, oh, it's ungentlemanly to bully a lady. Ahaha, Snape, he is a potion professor, he stays in the dark basement all year round to brew potions, he must be weak, this is it. After some thought, Lockhart said. Well, headmaster, there may be many young wizards when the club is opened. Perhaps in order to ensure the safety of the young wizards, I hope to let Dean Snape be my assistant. In the corner that Lockhart couldn't see, the corner of Dumbledore's mouth was harder to suppress than an AK-47. Oh, of course, for the safety of the young wizards, and are you sure you want Severus to help you? Dumbledore confirmed again and again. However, Lockhart, who had completed his logical loop, did not notice the implicit reminder from Dumbledore. No problem, Principal, just wait for my good news. Lockhart patted his chest carefully, then walked out of the principal's office. Hee, you really are worthy of being the White Lord, Albus. Phineas Nigellus Black sneered. Then he was surrounded by the principals and his mouth was covered. Amid the noise of the headmasters, Dumbledore took out the Elder Wand and tapped it in the air a few times. A silver phoenix appeared in the sky, and Dumbledore said to the phoenix. Severus, Gilderoy Lockhart is planning to hold a dueling club and may ask you to be his assistant. I want you to keep an eye on him and don't let him teach the young wizard the dark arts. Then the phoenix flew away. In the basement, in Snape's office, a silver phoenix flew in. Snape, who received the information, smiled creepily. Chapter 102, Club, Parseltongue. The preparations for the club were in full swing, and finally, on Tuesday night, Lockhart summoned all the little wizards in the first and second grades. On Tuesday night, in the duel classroom, Aiden arrived at the duel room early in the morning, and the venue was still so empty. After picking a nice beam, Aiden flew over and used a cleaning spell to clear the dust off it. A dragon that didn't belong here was entrenched on the beam. As time went by, young wizards began to enter the duel room one after another. Finally, the agreed time arrived and a sexy man walked in. Everyone, come here, come here. Lockhart called out loudly to the wizards around him. Then he took off his cloak and threw it into the crowd of girls. Several little witches immediately started fighting for the cloak. In light of the dark events that have occurred in the past few weeks, Professor Dumbledore has specifically authorized me to start this dueling club. Lockhart winked at the little wizards, showing his shining teeth. Lockhart is amazing, isn't he? The little wizard next to Harry said to him. My name is Justin Finch-Fletchley, and I'm from Hufflepuff House. The friendly young wizard held out his hand and shook Harry's. Oh, hello, I'm. Harry didn't have time to finish introducing himself before Justin interrupted him. I know, you are Harry Potter, even we wizards from Muggle background know you. Then Lockhart on the stage saw that the atmosphere was almost ready, so he shouted loudly. Let me introduce my assistant, Professor Snape of Slytherin. The young wizards looked in the direction he pointed, and a wizard in a proper dueling suit walked in. Oh, it seems that the Sigiato came prepared. Aiden on the beam pulled out a glass of iced lemonade and sipped it. He was willing to take the risk to give us a demonstration. Then, Snape walked onto the dueling stage with steady steps. As Sigiao was walking, he suddenly looked up at De Liang. His eyes met Aiden's, which startled Aiden and made him think he was exposed. But Snape quickly looked away and stopped paying attention. I won't hurt you, Potions Professor, don't be afraid. Lockhart gave a kind smile. Professor Snape also smiled back at him, but this smile looked extremely creepy. The two men walked to the center of the dueling arena, raised their wands and performed a dueling salute. Then they walked towards the two sides of the duel stage with their backs to each other. Snape waited until Lockhart was on his feet, then raised his wand. Excuse me, weapons. Snape deliberately slowed down the speed of his chanting and did not use any silencing spells. He waved his wand slowly and cast a spell. The powerful magic hit Lockhart, and the wand in his hand flew high. At the same time, the person was blown away by the huge impact force and fell heavily to the ground. The little wizards around laughed. That's really clear thinking, Professor Snape. If I hadn't been demonstrating this spell to the younger wizards, you wouldn't have even had a chance to hit me. Lockhart stood up, explained with a wry smile, and walked towards Snape. Perhaps we should first teach students effective spells to ward off evil, which might be more effective, Professor. This St. Peter looked at Lockhart with the eyes of a dead man, forcing him to take back what he was about to say. Oh, that's exactly what I wanted to say. Lockhart awkwardly changed the subject. Well, let's choose 2 young wizards to demonstrate. It's you, Potter and Weasley. Lockhart pointed at Harry and Ron. Weasley's cheating spell may not be suitable for this duel. Perhaps they need an evenly matched opponent. What do you think? After Snape finished speaking, he glared at the beam again. It was obvious that Snape had discovered Aiden. This left Aiden puzzled, not knowing where he had been exposed. But in fact, careful people will find that there is suddenly a clean spot on the originally dirty and old beam. Then please allow the students of my academy to participate in this duel, Draco. Professor Snape turned around quickly, pointed at Draco, and then hooked his thumb behind him. Draco instructed and climbed onto the dueling stage. At the professor's signal, the other young wizards also found their opponents. Harry and Draco walked to the center of the dueling arena and, following the example of the 2 professors, gave each other a dueling salute. Are you scared, Potter? Draco smiled evilly. It's you, Draco. Harry was not to be outdone. No curses allowed, only disarmament. We don't want anyone to get hurt. 1, 2. Lockhart read out the rules and began the countdown, but before he finished counting down, Draco took the first step. Tarantella. A spell hit Harry and his legs began to jump uncontrollably. Snape on the side smiled knowingly. Grinhula. Harry countered with a tickling spell. Draco laughed after being hit. Just as Draco was laughing, he noticed his godfather's murderous look out of the corner of his eye. Then, trying not to laugh, he cast a spell on Harry. Oolong out of the cave. A cobra shot out from Draco's wand. Squirming towards Harry. Stop, this is beyond the limit. Lockhart rushed forward and stood in front of Harry. Let me handle it. Lockhart recalled a spell he had learned from a magical object some time ago. Drive out the enemy. Lockhart bit his tongue while casting the spell, and the exorcism spell turned into an unknown spell. The cobra was instantly magnified dozens of times and turned into a giant python. Well done, oh boy, Aiden, who was eating watermelons on the beam, exclaimed. Watching the enlarged cobra preparing to attack the young wizards around the stands. Aiden released some shock. The 2 snakes, the snake and the Sri Lankan, looked at the beams at the same time. It was as if there was a giant dragon hovering above it. The moment Snake Eyes and Aiden looked at each other, Aiden hypnotized it and planted the instruction not to harm others, then Aiden let the snake go. After being hypnotized, the cobra shook its head, which Harry mistakenly thought was a signal to attack. So Harry rushed forward and protected Justin behind him. Hiss, 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 hiss. In desperation, Harry used snake language to drive away the huge poisonous snake. But in the eyes of the young wizards around him, Harry was controlling the poisonous snake. The little wizards who couldn't bear it screamed, and Snape looked at Harry with a complicated look. Hermione and Ron grabbed Harry just in time, dragging him all the way to the Gryffindor common room. You're a Parseltongue, why didn't you tell us? Said Ron. What am I? Harry asked puzzled. You can talk to snakes. Mother Hermione glared at Harry. I know. Wizards have a lot of talents. Look at Aiden, doesn't he have horns? Harry thought the 2 were making a fuss out of nothing. But Parseltongue is generally considered a sign of a dark wizard. Aiden spoke, coming out of the blind spot of his consciousness, startling the 3 people at the same time. Salazar Slytherin himself also possessed Parseltongue. This story is quite famous. Congratulations Harry, you are now the heir of Slytherin in everyone's eyes. Aiden raised an eyebrow at Harry. Chapter 103. Me, the heir of Slytherin, how is that possible? Harry was a little unbelievable. That's the truth. Anyway, good luck to you, young man. Aiden patted Harry on the shoulder. He turned and walked out of the Gryffindor common room. Aiden walked out of the lounge and crossed the corridor, preparing to return to the dormitory to rest. Then a large hand grabbed his shoulder and tried to push Aiden against the wall. The hand tried for a long time but failed to pull sequence 6 Aiden. Okay, Professor Snape, just say what you want to say. You can't be incapable of chatting unless you push someone against the wall. Aiden raised his eyebrows. What's wrong with him? Snape's eyes were bloodshot. You already know that Lockhart is a bastard. That's enough, you know who I'm talking about. Snape stared at Aiden's eyes, but the sharp dragon pupils could pierce through a person's soul, which made the guilty man quickly look away. What do you feel? Aiden narrowed his eyes. That man, he also speaks Parseltongue. Snape rolled up his sleeves, revealing the dark mark on his hand. You told me the secret of his immortality before, and now I ask you, that boy, is he? Snape's tone suddenly changed, his voice filled with pleading and the expectation of a negative answer. Yes, he is. Aiden ruthlessly shattered his hopes, and Snape seemed to have lost all his strength. I ended up with nothing to protect. Snape left in despair. Harry's nightmare began. For a period of time, people were talking about him wherever he went. Ernie even spread rumors among Gryffindor that Harry was the next Dark Lord, although in a sense he was not wrong. But Aiden had no time to pay attention to Harry's little troubles, because the second event of the Dueling Society was about to begin. On Thursday night, Aiden went to bed early, and his mind-body followed the call of the anchor and came to the duel room in the hazy fantasy. Welcome, we have more new faces today. Professor Flitwick seemed very happy to see the huge crowd of people. Aiden looked around and saw the twins, Percy, Chu Jong, Cedric Diggory. They are all famous wizards in the original work, Aiden thought. So, how's the dueling club that Lockhart is running? Professor Flitwick pulled Aiden aside to gossip, and it was clear that Aiden, who had appeared at the dueling club on Tuesday night, had gone there with a mission from a certain professor. It was terrible. The only thing he did was to show the little wizards his unparalleled ability to fly backwards. Oh, he even taught the little wizards to fight hand-to-hand. Aiden pulled Professor Flitwick aside and complained bitterly. Aiden, you didn't participate, so how do you know so much? Hermione was a little surprised. An exclusive secret. Aiden raised his head proudly. Okay, kids, I have to teach you some self-defense spells to deal with the dangers in the castle. Professor Flitwick clapped his hands. Professor Flitwick divided the young wizards into groups and asked the senior wizards to lead the junior wizards in practicing the bright as day and eye disease spells. Afterwards, under the leadership of Aiden, the new wizards began constructing runes. Arthuri quickly completed the construction, with shining light floating around her. She looked at Aiden with pride. Maybe this has something to do with her having already embarked on the sequence? Aiden thought, stroking his chin. Ding, it's innate. The level of control over a wizard's mental abilities is more related to talent. No matter how high the increase brought by the sequence is, it still depends on the foundation. So the original 5 increases by 200%, and the original 1 increases by 200%, right? Aiden raised his eyebrows. Then I am not a genius in the spiritual field either. Aiden thought narcissistically. Ding, cut. Then, Aiden gathered the students who had completed the rune construction. Professor Flitwick took out a blackboard. After a period of study, Professor Flitwick, as a master of spells, had already mastered Aiden's 3 basic magics. So, Professor Flitwick began tonight's teaching. Well, everyone, look, as the basis for constructing the magic circle, you need to fill this rune with the power of the mind to penetrate and destroy. Come and follow me, Aiden, you can help watch over me. Professor Flitwick began to lead the members in the first transformation of mental power. Pierce through. Arthuri looked at the rune in her hand and completed the magic in an instant. But her control was not up to standard, and the magic power was released instantly after it was gathered. Aiden took out his staff and fired a beam of light, catching up with the beam fired by Arthuri. The 2 beams of light collided in midair and cancelled each other out. Oh, Miss Greengrass, don't be so impatient, Professor Flitwick advised. Yes, Professor. Arthuri bowed her head and admitted her mistake. Professor Flitwick's teaching level is extremely high. After his teaching, most of the young wizards have completed the transformation of their mental power. Okay, next is the second step, focusing the magic power. Professor Flitwick took out his wand and waved it to create a wand flower. You see, the magic power flows in the body, just like we release magic outside, but you need to clearly feel the magic power passing through the body. First, relax and imagine yourself floating in the river, carefully feeling the direction of the water flow. Professor Flitwick's gentle voice spread, and the magic combined with his voice achieved a suggestive effect. My old dean is amazing. I've only used this trick a few times in front of him, and he reversed the principle. Aiden chatted with the system. Ding, individual name Phileas Flitwick, race, half-elf, with powerful magic and extremely strong mind control ability. Watching the old dean teaching in the distance, a certain dragon began his paddling journey. Since the hazy illusion itself is within the mind, it becomes easier for Aiden to hide here. Professor Flitwick taught with all his heart, and finally before the end of the get out of class, some other little wizards were able to launch beams of light. But there is still a long way to go to achieve free control of the beam. As the Dual Association's activities were about to come to an end, Aiden stood up and announced. Everyone, the magic that the association has given you cannot be leaked at will. We have a contract, so please remember this. At the same time, if you want to use this magic in reality, you need to go to Mr. All-Eye Vendor to customize a special wand. Oh, I can't use it directly, oh, it's so troublesome, I don't want to spend this money. Aiden. It seems that it is unnecessary to worry about these guys abusing magic. The second Dual Association event of the second grade ended with Aiden sighing. Chapter 104. Materials, Highlights. For some time, Hermione had finished reading powerful potions given to her by Aiden, and had a comprehensive and profound understanding of Polyjuice Potion. Harry worked hard to play a vegetarian vampire in Lockhart's acting class. After class, he dragged his tired body to go back to rest, but was stopped by Hermione. Harry, look, this is the formula for Polyjuice Potion. We also need bicornhorn and boomslang skin, 2 ingredients I can't get. Hermione said helplessly. Wait, I think I've seen these 2 materials in Snape's office when I was in detention before. Ron had an idea. So, how do we get him? Harry asked. Maybe we can give them some fun. Ron smiled mysteriously. In the afternoon, Ron and Harry got a good thing from the twins. Is this a firework? Hermione looked at the black ball in front of her in amazement. Yes, we will create chaos in Snape's class, and you will take the opportunity to steal materials from the materials room. Ron arranged the plan. In the potions class, Goyle and Crabbe were conscientiously brewing the swelling potion. Ron deliberately knocked the spoon away, and taking the opportunity of bending over, he took out the fireworks and threw them hard. The black ball drew an arc in the air and fell accurately into Goyle and Crabbe's cauldron. As the explosion sounded, Snape looked back and saw a large pool of swelling potion splashed on his face. The little wizards around were hit by the exploding potion and started to swell. Of course, Harry and Ron, who were acting as shields, were not spared either. They hid behind the 2 men and escaped with Hermione. While Professor Snape was treating the young wizards, Hermione sneaked into Snape's private storage room and stole the materials. After class, Snape was correcting the homework of the little wizards from the previous class in his office when suddenly there was a knock on the office door. Come in. Snape frowned. A little wizard wearing a wide wizard hat walked in, his heterochromatic eyes were particularly noticeable in the dim office. Oh, is Mr. Pruitt here to apologize for his unlucky relative? Snape spoke in a sarcastic tone. No, the principal just told me to pay. Here, 20 galleons, how much? Aiden pulled out a money bag and placed it on the desk. Humph. Snape snorted coldly and put the purse into his arms. Well, if there's nothing else, I'll go ahead. Aiden started to leave, but Snape stopped him. That child, are you training him like this just to let him die? Snape stared at Aiden, wand already in hand. Aiden looked at the man in front of him, despite his best efforts to use occlumency to make himself empty. But as a hypnotist, Aiden could still read the deep regret from him. The atmosphere in the room began to become tense, and Aiden didn't know how to respond to the man in front of him. No, this time, no one will die, I promise. The sharp eyes looked at Snape, as if a dragon was staring at him. Then Aiden left Snape's office. In the office, Snape was looking at an old photo, wondering what he was thinking. In the women's bathroom on the second floor, Hermione got the ingredients and began to make Polyjuice Potion. Why are we brewing potions here? Harry wondered. Because this is Myrtle's territory, not many people usually come here. Hermione explained to the two older children while throwing ingredients into the crucible. Who is Myrtle? Ron wondered. Me. A ghost flew out of the toilet. Who would remember an ugly, crying Myrtle? After introducing herself, Myrtle screamed and flew back into the toilet. She's a little sentimental, but that's okay. We only need to borrow her for a month, said Hermione. 1 month? How many little wizards could Malfoy kill in this month? Harry exclaimed. I know, but this is the only option we have, said Hermione. Seeing that the brewing of the potion was on track, the three of them cleaned up the mess on the floor and left the bathroom. On the 4th floor at night, Oliver finished his day's study and prepared to return to his Ravenclaw dormitory. As he was walking alone in the corridor, he heard friction sounds coming from the walls around him. Hiss, hiss, hiss. A hissing sound unique to snakes was heard, and Oliver instantly realized that something was wrong. He remembered Professor Flitwick's instructions in the dueling room, closed his eyes, and raised his wand high. Bright as day. A strong light filled the entire corridor. The basilisk's eyes were stung by the sudden light and it began to sway left and right, bumping into a man in a black robe. When Oliver heard the noise, he spread his legs and started running. Oliver fled through the corridor all the way to the 2nd floor. Coincidentally, 3 people just came out from the corner of the 2nd floor corridor and bumped into each other. Oh, you're Oliver, Aidan's roommate. Ron recognized the man. What happened? Harry covered his nose, it seemed that he was hit hard. It should be the monster in the secret room. Be prepared for battle. After Oliver finished speaking, several people took out their wands and prepared for battle. Ron was wearing a ring on his hand, which made him stand out among the others. As the footsteps approached, a huge snake head poked out of the pipe. The man in black robe obviously didn't realize there were so many people here and was stunned for a moment. Hiss, 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 hiss. The man in black robe hissed and the basilisk pounced on him immediately. Then he quickly turned and left. Harry and his friends quickly cast spells at the basilisk, but the basilisk's skin resistance was too high and the spell failed to have a good effect. Let me. Ron called on his teammates to move aside, and a beam of light gathered in his hand. Zoltraok. A beam of light was fired, and the white beam of light was wrapped in black magic and rushed towards the basilisk. When hitting the basilisk's body, a large piece of its flesh and blood was melted away. The basilisk felt pain and shrank back into the pipe. As the friction sound gradually faded away, everyone realized that the monster had escaped, and several people sat directly on the ground, gasping for breath. Haha, I've become stronger. Ron raised the ring on his finger and showed off to his friends. This is Aidan's spell, right? Did you customize a wand? Oliver looked at Ron's ring with envy. No, Aidan gave it to me. Ron rubbed his nose. Oh, that's great. I wonder if Aidan will accept customization. Harry and Hermione looked at Ron's ring and were also moved. What happened? Why don't you go back to the dormitory? Professor McGonagall, who was on patrol, appeared behind them. Do you know that it is curfew now? And there is danger in the castle. How dare you? Professor McGonagall was about to reprimand when she was interrupted by Oliver. I'm sorry, Professor, but we just encountered the monster in the Chamber of Secrets, and we passed the heir, who, judging by his height, was a grown man, dressed in black robes. Oliver quickly explained and gave all the information. Looking at the devastated corridor, Professor McGonagall realized that they were not lying. So she led everyone to the medical wing for testing. Chapter 105, Afterwards, Promotion. The rumor that the famous Harry Potter had driven away the monster in the Chamber of Secrets spread throughout Hogwarts. When Aidan came out of the room of requirement, Oliver was already waiting for him at the door. Aidan, there is something I want to tell you. It's the wand, Aidan continued Oliver's words. Yes, I don't have much money right now, but I am willing to sign a contract with you and work for you to pay me back in the future. There was an eagerness in Oliver's eyes. No mate, I can help you customize your wand, but in exchange, I want you to join us. Aidan's beautiful heterochromatic eyes revealed a different kind of radiance, and Oliver gradually became obsessed with these eyes. Okay. Oliver agreed to Aidan for some reason. Yes, then follow me and swear an oath. I am an outsider who does not belong to this world, the great master of the Sea of Consciousness, the grey dragon that controls the mind. I voluntarily join the Dusk Hermits, abide by the truth, and fight to maintain peace. After the oath was completed, Oliver officially joined, so Aiden took out a metal wand from his pocket and threw it to him. That's it? Don't you need to measure the data? Or use a magic wand to choose the wizard or something? Oliver felt strange. I suspect you have something else in mind, but, dear Oliver, we are roommates and I know your data very well. Aiden clasped his hands together and acted cute. You didn't secretly dissect us at night, did you? Oliver swallowed. How could that be? We are dear friends. Aiden curved his eyes like crescent moons. After sending Oliver away, Aiden came to the hall. In the hall, Ernie from Gryffindor was still exaggerating that everything was Harry's trick, and everyone should not become accomplices of the next Dark Lord. This guy is really keen on making up rumors about Harry. Aiden raised an eyebrow. Aiden took out his monocle and put it on, then turned on the recording function and pointed it at Ernie, preparing to record the footage into the photo stone for Gryffindor students to refer to when the truth was revealed in the future. Suddenly, a large face appeared in front of Aiden's frame. Aiden, when did you start wearing glasses? Ethan said with a chicken leg in his mouth, looking very unserious. So that I can see my life more clearly. Aiden raised the corners of his mouth. Oh, you evil guy, these are the glasses you made yourself with recording function. You wore them on the day of the hearing. Edmund exposed Aiden. Haha, just tell me whether you record your life or not. Aiden blinked and picked up a plate of barbecue. Edmund and Ethan smiled at each other and said nothing more. Then Aiden started recording Ernie, who was bossing around at the Gryffindor table. Time passed quickly, and Christmas came in a blink of an eye. It started to snow, and all the leaves in the Forbidden Forest fell off, adding a bit of solemnity to Hogwarts. During the Christmas holiday, Aiden submitted a leave note to the dean and prepared to go home. It just so happened that the role play between myself and Rado was almost over. Aiden apparat to Diagon Alley, inside the J. Pippin Potion Shop branch, where Vincent, a clerk, was standing at the counter as usual. Hey, Vincent, Merry Christmas! Aiden waved to Vincent. Oh, it's Aiden. Long time no see. Merry Christmas! Vincent smiled businesslike when he saw the sponsor coming. Come on, what do you want to buy? Brain of an adult dragon, pituitary gland of a dragon, blood of a venomous leopard, spinal fluid of a lizard, skin of an ermine, branches of the whomping willow, bluebells, and dragon blood. Aiden made a list and gave it to Vincent. Well, not much different from last time. Vincent looked at the list and turned to pack the materials. Okay, that's all. Can you count them? Vincent placed the packaged materials on the table. Well, how much? Aiden raised his eyebrows. The experienced Vincent no longer dared to falsely quote the price. Well, 42 galleons. Take a look for yourself. I definitely didn't ask for a high price. So Aiden readily paid the money, took the materials and left Diagon Alley and returned to Pruitt's old house. That night, Aiden took out the potion ingredients and began to extract their properties. System, add points. Ding, ha! The material properties have been extracted and synthesized: the pituitary gland of the psychic dragon, the cerebrospinal fluid of the black hunting monitor lizard, the fruit of the psychedelic wind bell tree, the brain of an adult psychic dragon, and the blood of the psychic dragon. Aiden put the brain and dragon blood of the psychic dragon into a glass bottle. Under the stimulation of magic, it formed the extraordinary characteristics of a dream walker. He added pure water and a bottle of magic potion was ready. Ophia! Aiden called his messenger and pulled a tail feather from her body. Ah, it hurts, you're going to die. Ophia was driven out by Aiden while cursing. Do I need huge emotions for the last step? Aiden began to examine his memories, but soon he found that his past was too dull. From the moment I became a spectator, my emotions have always remained stable, rarely experiencing major fluctuations due to external factors. Perhaps this is the result of my previous path being too smooth. Aiden laughed at himself as he wandered through his memories. As his past memories continued to be traced back, Aiden finally stopped in front of a shining picture. What is that? Aiden's eyes were a little confused. Ding, that's the picture of the host just coming into this world. After experiencing the transition between life and death, he has regained the joy of rebirth. Do you want to see it? The system's voice came from the neck. Oh, of course. Aiden dove into his own memories. Call. Aiden was surrounded by the joy of returning from the cold silence of death to the bright world, breathing again, and being born again. In reality, Aiden drank the potion. The taste of the potion is very strange, a little sour, a little sweet, a little bitter, a little psychedelic, a little stimulating, like an unbridled dream. In confusion, Aiden saw his past life self. His family and friends were sitting at a round dining table, and the only empty seat seemed to be reserved for him. The family sent an invitation to Aiden, but Aiden did not go over. He just stood there and looked at them with a smile. Has my past life become a drama? Aiden thought. He waved gently to his family and said, goodbye. The next moment, the dream was shattered, and Aiden seemed to fall from the clouds to the ground. As he fell, he saw an endless ocean, with 6 rays of light of different colors flashing in the depths of the ocean. With a crash, Aiden's head hit the ground. Aiden struggled to get up from the ground. Why do I fall to the ground every time I get promoted? System, do you have any idea? Aiden asked. Maybe you have a connection with the floor. The system replied. Wow, why don't you even say ding? It's tasteless. Aiden showed a disgusted expression. Ah. Chapter 106, Psychologist and Dream Walker. After a while, Aiden gathered his spirituality. Aiden, who has become a dream walker, can already glimpse the ocean of collective subconsciousness. Aiden sees his dreams like a huge bubble growing from the island of consciousness. These bubbles are surrounded by a grey haze, and other bubbles are vaguely visible in the distance. Below the bubbles correspond to islands of consciousness. The outer periphery of the island is a layer of illusory sea water, which must be the sea of collective subconsciousness. Since it was already night and the people around him had gone to sleep, Aiden let his body become weak and entered into dreams, traveling between dreams. Ordinary people's dreams are bizarre and some people don't even know what they dreamed about. But ordinary people around them would vaguely feel that their dreams last night seemed to have been visited by fairies when they woke up the next day. Having had enough fun, Aiden returned to the old house of Pruitt. His magic power emerged and he quickly locked onto Radha's location. Aiden came to Radha, picked up the kitten and held it in his arms. He stroked Lada's head and took out the prepared potion. I have finished my advancement, and now it's your turn. Aiden gave a wicked smile. Lada. Are you going to persecute the poor little kitty again? Radha said mischievously. Read less of those messy books. Aiden tapped Radha's head. She was given a magic potion, and as the pain and confusion dissipated, Radha successfully advanced to become a psychiatrist. The advanced Lada's fur becomes smoother, and the markings on its body exude a mysterious charm. Has this completely transformed into a magical creature? Aiden asked, curious. Radha, besides the potion's ability, have you awakened any other abilities? I don't know about other abilities. Radha was a little curious. System, help me scan Radha. Aiden raised the gem tied around his neck. The system doesn't have this function. If possible, the system would really like to roll its eyes at Aiden. Well, we can only find out slowly. Aiden said helplessly. When I stood in front of the mirror, I saw the same delicate face, giving people a feeling of pure and flawless beauty. Why does it feel like it's getting more and more beautiful? Am I really not taking the witch's path? Aiden laughed. Maybe. The system replied. After both he and Lada completed their promotion, Aiden's Christmas vacation began. The next day, Aiden got up early. Outside the house, the heavy snow covered the entire village of Baberl. Aiden sent out the gift he had prepared, and Ophia glared at Aiden fiercely before leaving. During the rare Christmas holiday, Aiden decided to take a good look around London. After some searching, he chose the Tower of London. I heard that it houses the crown jewels and royal armour, a dungeon where prisoners were said to be held, and a tower with views of the Thames. So he put on a simple black down jacket, paired with dark blue jeans and a pair of clean white sneakers, and his whole body exuded a clean and fresh aura. Well, this outfit suits you very well, Master Aiden, Sen complimented. Haha, you have good taste. Aiden strolls through the streets of London, the dragon horns hidden by a confusion charm. Her silver white hair fluttered gently in the breeze, and her heterochromatic eyes were like gems inlaid on her face. One is as deep as the midnight starry sky, and the other is as clear as the morning sunshine, attracting passers-by to cast admiring glances involuntarily. The boy held a hot dog in his left hand and a drink in his right hand. He ate while walking, and his modern style was far better than those British gentlemen. The attractions of the Tower of London did not seem to attract Aidan that much. After all, after getting used to living in an ancient castle, when he went to visit another castle, he would always compare the two places. "Well, Hogwarts beats this place by a long shot," Aidan commented. "But you are here to have fun, can't you just be a muggle for once?" The system complained. So Aidan used psychology to become invisible, and the people around him ignored Aidan. "They are pretty powerful, I mean the muggles." A familiar voice sounded behind him. Aidan saw the person coming and a big question mark appeared in his mind. "Are you so free that you don't want the Department of Mysteries anymore?" Aidan raised his eyebrows. "That's not the case. It's rare to see a dragon on the streets of London." The visitor was none other than the director of the Department of Mysteries. He was still wearing the same platinum robe that he had worn for thousands of years, but strangely, no one around him noticed him. "So, what can I do for you, Director?" Aidan asked. "Actually, this is the case. In the previous Kingsport incident, we tracked down a mysterious organization that seemed to be fanatically worshipping those lingering ghosts under the sea." The director clasped his hands together, made a heart shape with his hands, and looked at Aidan. "At the same time, when we were tracking them down, we also discovered Pruitt's funding supply. Do you suspect I have an affair with them?" Aidan frowned. "How is that possible? I'm not that stupid. If you are their financial backer, why would you personally go out and fight the King of the Deep Realm?" The director pulled out a bottle of Coke from his sleeve, inserted the straw into the bottle and started sipping. "Wait, most of the alchemy shops in Pruitt are run by goblins, and you suspect?" Aidan gradually understood what the director meant. "Yes, I think their ambitions seem to be growing wildly like the weeds." The director narrowed his eyes. "So, you came to see me?" Aidan looked at the director, trying to read his thoughts. "Hey, you can't read it. Since you want to know the inside story so much, just join us," the director said teasingly. Aidan clenched his fists as he looked at the dishonest guy in front of him. "Okay, let's stop playing. The dragon is going to get angry. If we find that there is something wrong with the goblin, we may take direct action. We came to you today to let you know to avoid any conflict." The director changed his previous playful smile and spoke seriously. "Okay, I'll cooperate with you if necessary." Aidan nodded. "Oh, by the way, there is one more thing. When we were tracking them, we found that a bug from this organization had sneaked into Hogwarts. Please be extremely careful." After saying that, the director blinked his left eye at Aidan, turned around, and disappeared into the air like mist. After the director left, Aidan took a walk along the Thames, enjoying the river view at sunset. "System, do you think Oliver's father is also related to this organization?" Aidan asked as he looked at the sunset that dyed the sky red. "Do you want to tell him? This may create a vengeful evil ghost." The system reminded. "But I can't hide it from him. He has the right to know. Let him make the choice and let him judge for himself what is right and wrong." Aidan made up his mind. Chapter 107, Petrified Again, Staring at Each Other. While Aidan was busy with his promotion back home, the danger in the school did not stop. One day, Harry couldn't stand his classmates' looks and walked out of the library, where he met Hagrid, who was dealing with a dead chicken. "Hagrid, what are you doing here?" Harry asked, confused. Hagrid showed Harry the chicken in his hand and said, "Dealing with these, this is the fifth one that's been killed this term. Someone is clearing out these chickens. We have seen the monster in the secret room. It is a basilisk. Perhaps we can catch the air by setting a trap in the chicken coop." A brilliant idea flashed through Harry's mind. "Well, that's a good idea, but it's too late. This batch in the school has been killed." Hagrid shrugged helplessly. "Okay, I won't bother you anymore. Bye, Hagrid." Harry said goodbye to Hagrid and returned to the dormitory alone. But unfortunately, he found Justin and Sir Nick petrified in the corner of the corridor. Harry hurried forward to check what was going on, but just then Filch came out from behind him. "I've caught you. This time I'm going to keep you from staying in school, Potter. Remember my words." Filch turned around and left immediately. Then he called Professor McGonagall. "Professor, I swear I didn't do this. Harry's eyes were full of grievance. This is no longer something I can handle. Professor McGonagall shook her head, pulled out her wand and conjured up a fan. Ernie, you fan Nick up to the attic, and Filch, you take Justin to the hospital wing. After that, Professor McGonagall took Harry to find Dumbledore. In the headmaster's office, all the headmasters were taking a break. Harry picked up the sorting hat and put it on again. Ahaha, Harry Potter! The hat's hoarse voice sounded in Harry's mind. Hat, perhaps you didn't put me in the right house? Harry inquired. Yes, you are a particularly difficult type, but I still firmly believe that you will achieve something special if you are in Slytherin. After saying this, the hat fell silent. Then, Harry came to the Phoenix and witnessed the whole process of the Phoenix's nirvana. Harry! Dumbledore appeared on the second floor. Professor, your bird, I can't help him. Harry was a little anxious. Oh, don't worry, that's Fox, he's a phoenix, he's been looking terrible lately, but don't worry about him. Before Dumbledore could finish his words, Fox crawled out of the ashes to protest against Dumbledore's choice of words. Professor Dumbledore, I can testify for Harry, he didn't hurt anyone. Anxious Hagrid rushed into the headmaster's office. Oh, don't worry Hagrid, no one said Harry hurt anyone, Dumbledore comforted. Oh, yes, Hagrid was a little at a loss. I'll go out and wait for you guys. After Hagrid left, Dumbledore looked at Harry, his blue pupils looking straight into his heart through his half-moon eyes. Harry always felt that he had seen such a sharp gaze somewhere before, and suddenly a pair of heterochromatic eyes flashed in his mind. Harry, who had come to his senses, no longer felt Dumbledore's gaze was piercing. Dumbledore's blue eyes seemed to meet the heterochromatic pair for a moment, and then the heterochromatic pair looked away awkwardly. Well, is there anything else you want to tell me, Harry? Dumbledore asked. That's all, Professor. Harry left the office. In the office, Dumbledore sat down at his desk. That kid is getting better and better, he exclaimed. Who, Harry Potter, didn't you see? Principal Black spoke first. Is that Aiden Pruitt? Principal Dippet asked. I think he's a nice kid. Black retorted, everyone is good in your opinion. Wasn't Tom Riddle your favorite student back then? Principal Black was full of hatred as soon as he opened his mouth. Dippet rushed up to beat him, and the other principals followed suit. I don't know how that child did it, he seemed to have put a lock on Harry's mind. Dumbledore recalled what he had just seen. Albus, believe in young people more. The future belongs to them. Headmaster Delise Devante advised. Then, the principal's office fell silent again. The next day, Harry was watching the snow in the Hogwarts courtyard when the twins passed by him and shouted. Look, that's the heir of Slytherin. Be careful, he is a very evil wizard. Go away, George, Fred. Ron stepped forward to drive his two brothers away. Don't take it personally. We know you're not. Hermione looked at Harry worriedly. Perhaps you will feel better in a few days. The transformation potion is almost ready. We will soon know the culprit from Malfoy. Perhaps the criminal this time is our reliable defense against the dark arts professor again. Ron winked at Harry, trying to comfort him. That's impossible, he's a Ravenclaw. With the comfort of his partner, Harry forced a smile. The Christmas holidays were over quickly and Aiden returned to Hogwarts. Wow, Aiden, you seem to be even more charming after not seeing you for a summer. Arthur she gave a heartfelt compliment. That's not a good word for me. Aiden looked helplessly at Arthur, whose face was full of teasing. Rada and I have completed the promotion. Aiden said calmly. What? Why so fast? There was a sly flash in Arthur's eyes. Perhaps it's because it's not human in nature, that's why it's so fast. The system helped Arthur sigh to express the hidden meaning. Because it's an acting job. How long will it take you? Aiden didn't give Arthur a chance to continue the topic. Until February next year at the latest. Slytherin is really amazing, since I can analyze their thoughts from their actions and expressions. Arthur Sy opened her arms and made an exaggerated gesture. The entire Slytherin family has gone astray. Most of them are only concerned with business and calculation, and have forgotten about honor, judging the situation, and protecting themselves. Aren't there some desirable talents? Aiden asked. Yes, but most of them are not suitable to be recruited into our organization. Arthuri crossed her hands and made a veto gesture. Okay, you can handle the selection issue. I have something to tell you. I need you to pay attention to whether there are any very fanatical students in the school. Aiden pushed his monocle up and pulled out a similar one from his pocket and handed it to Arthur. Fanatical, like us. Arthur took the glasses and put them on. Well, no, it's the kind of person who worships a certain god crazily and often recommends his or her god to others. Aiden completed the information of the person who needed attention. Okay then. I'll collect information from those people later, and also find out what this thing is used for. She pointed to the monocle in her eye socket. Oh, this will be used as a token of the organization from now on. It also has communication and recording functions. Let me demonstrate it to you. Aiden's fingers gently slid across the frame, typed in the message he wanted to send, selected Arthur's eye, and sent the message. And small words began to appear on Arthur's glasses. Cool. Then Arthuri also followed Aiden's example and sent him a message. This thing is great. If I sell it, I can make a lot of galleons. Arthuri's eyes instantly turned into the shape of galleons. Without paying any further attention to the money-loving young lady's fantasy, Aiden turned and left. Chapter 108. Clothing. On Wednesday, after a pretty good drama performance class, Aiden decided to start a new project to change his mood. Under Aiden's training, Oliver has become a qualified assistant, tool man, able to participate in Aiden's research and development, and also able to carry out some small projects on his own. In the afternoon, Aiden took Oliver to the room of requirement. It feels like this has become your territory, Aiden, Oliver teased. It's much better than being burned to death. Aiden said something incoherent to Oliver. Oliver didn't comment on this, and the two went to the laboratory prepared for them in the room of requirement. So, what's the point of calling me here all of a sudden? Asked Oliver. I suddenly had an idea. Aiden scratched his head. Oh, is this another fantastic experiment? Do you want me to help you recall it? Oliver glanced at Aiden and began to list his crimes. Last time he wanted to use the magic of the sun to improve the physique of wizards. The time before that he wanted to use the power of the Twilight Zone to forcibly separate Filch's mind and soul. The time before that he wanted to create a mind bomb that could destroy a city. As he spoke, Oliver let out a sigh. Aiden Pruitt, are you planning on becoming the Dark Lord? I don't want to go to Azkaban with you for further studies before finding the Resurrection Stone. Ahem, those are all research. How can research be related to the Dark Lord? Well, don't worry about it today. I plan to make some clothes as a welfare for the organization. Aiden pushed up his glasses and changed the subject. Oh, isn't this lens enough? Oliver played with the single-rimmed glasses in his pocket. Aiden, glasses are just one of the symbols. We need clothing. Oh, just like the Hogwarts school uniform, when we go out people will mistake us for elementary school students on a group outing. Oliver retorted. Hey, what's up, you're a little aggressive today, man. Aiden raised an eyebrow. No matter how calm a person is, he will end up like me if you force him to do these experiments. Believe me, never reveal your dangerous ideas to outsiders. Oliver held his forehead. Okay, today we are just making a piece of clothing, there's nothing dangerous. Aiden shook his hands and pushed Oliver to the test bench. So, where are the clothes? Oliver asked. We'll weave it later. Let's deal with the materials for the clothes first. Aiden pulled a ball of thread from his omni pocket. Xiang, are you planning to hand knit one for each person in the organization to show your love for them? When you give them the clothes, tell them that these are made by the chief himself and they should cherish them. When Oliver saw the ball of thread that Aiden took out, his desire to complain reached its peak. Oh, young man, please be patient with me. What do you think of my idea? Aiden pretended to be mysterious, but Oliver ignored him and acted like he had something to say quickly or something to fart about. So, we work on the thread, carve runes into it, and then make the thread into clothing. One peculiarity of our wizard's combat is that it is difficult to cast spells simultaneously on a large range of enemies. If alchemy can be used to make each thread a separate protective entity, it would be equivalent to holding multiple protective alchemical items at the same time. To put it simply, it's durability, right? The system explained to Aiden, but unfortunately Oliver couldn't hear it. So, you plan to carve runes on the countless threads of a whole piece of clothing? Oliver was very surprised, and suspected that his friend was too close to the principal and his brain was blinded by sweets. Of course not. This brings me to my second idea. Oliver, you have seen the assembly line of ordinary people, right? Of course. Don't tell me you are planning to start the Industrial Revolution in the wizarding world? The steam engine has been invented. Oliver was full of questions. No, but we don't need steam engines, folks. Wizards have magic, a natural, efficient, non-polluting energy source. All we have to do is design a seal carving system, and the energy source has been solved by the inspiration I got from another place. Aiden took out the magic crystal that he had left behind when he treated Arthuri. This is. Oliver picked up the crystal and knocked it. The sun's light inside slowly overflowed, creating a golden ripple. The crystallization of the sun's magic power. Aiden put his hands on his hips proudly. Okay, let's try it. Oliver thought about it for a while and felt that there was a way. So the two of them joined forces to start making rune engraving machines. Aiden took out the remaining mithril. This metal was stronger than steel but as light as a feather, and it emitted a charming glow under the lights of the laboratory. Mithril, how did you get this? I heard that Gryffindor's sword was made of this stuff, and it has been pursued by goblins for thousands of years. When Oliver saw such a large piece of mithril, the alchemist's unique greed for materials emerged. Maybe we should rely on the blessing of our ancestors. Aiden said with evil humor. Then, Aiden took out his wand and began to smelt the mithril. Add mithril between the engraving part of the machine and the basic magic channel to increase the machine's magic load. Aiden hollowed out the needle of the engraving machine, and the passage in the middle can ensure that the alchemical preparation flows through the needle and enters the object to be engraved. Well, it's done. I'm going to call it Aiden No 1. Aiden wiped the stains off his face. Same name as Shit. Oliver commented sharply. All right, sir, please be magnanimous and let me go. Aiden clasped his hands together. Give us a more normal name, so as not to leave any regrets at the beginning of our technological innovation. Oliver looked at Aiden seriously. Well, let's go with the technical side and call her Jenny. Oliver glared at him, and Aiden instantly restrained himself. It's okay to call it Magic Alchemy Engraving Machine 1.0. Aiden racked his brains to come up with a name. It's okay. Oliver said with relief. Okay, let's try our baby. Aiden threw the ball of thread in and placed the magic crystal into the reserved energy slot. At the same time, alchemical preparations were added to the ink tank on the top. Why is there no response? Oliver was puzzled. Well, I forgot to turn on the switch. Aiden, degree. Oliver couldn't bear to watch it anymore, so he walked forward and pressed the start button of the engraving machine. A buzzing sound was heard, and the thread began to be continuously drawn into the machine. The engraving needle also started to move, engraving tiny algais, lagas, and ingwas, on the line. Protection and intuition. Are you planning to make protective clothing that can be triggered automatically? Oliver picked up a thin thread and carefully examined the runes on it. Moreover, lagas has the effect of flowing, allowing the garment to adapt itself to the wearer's body. Ingwas represents fertility and can make broken threads grow automatically. Aiden introduced proudly. Try one first. After saying that, Aiden took out the spell and used the weaving spell passed down from Mrs. Molly's family. The threads spit out by the machine danced and intertwined in the air to form cloth, which then curled up into the shape of clothes. The excess parts were automatically cut off, and the other threads trembled to sew the joints. It's one of the spells that housewives must learn. It seems that Edmund was right. You are indeed a virtuous woman. Oliver raised his eyebrows. Take it. I have clothes for you, but they can't shut you up. Aiden threw the woven robe on Oliver. Oliver put the robe on and it quickly tightened and changed of its own accord. When the transformation was complete, a well-fitting suit appeared on Oliver. It seems the experiment was successful. Oliver raised his hands and turned them around a few times. Chapter 109. Dinner, Infiltration. Aiden and Oliver emerged from the room of requirement in their new robes. In the bathroom on the second floor, the trio's polyjuice potion was almost ready. In order not to disrupt the students' vacation, the Christmas dinner was scheduled on the evening of the second day after the students returned to school. At the dinner, Aiden continued to eat voraciously. "Oh, my dear Master Pruitt, could you please eat with some manners? Someone who doesn't know would think that the school is abusing you." Edmund looked at such a beautiful girl eating like this, and the huge gap made him unable to help but complain. "For the sake of efficiency, my dear Edmund, I need to save some time. This elegant and quick eating method is just something written in picture books to deceive children." Aiden swallowed the food in his mouth in one gulp. "Then you are not suitable for attending various social dinners." Ethan also agreed. "To be honest, those top people in the wizarding world right now are really not suitable to make friends with." Oliver found a way out for Aiden. "Well done." Aiden gave him a grateful look. Listening to the heated discussion at the Ravenclaw table, Harry glanced at Hermione and Ron. "So, our polyjuice potion is almost ready, right?" Harry asked. "Everything is ready, we just need to add their part to the potion, but we need to make sure Crabbe and Goyle don't show up while we're spying." As she spoke, Hermione took out a small bottle and shook it. Inside the bottle was Millicent Bulstrode's hair. "So what should we do?" Ron asked. "Well, I've prepared it for you. These 2 cakes are added with the water of life and death. As long as you find a way to get Crabbe and Goyle to eat them, the rest will be easy." Hermione placed 2 pieces of chocolate cake in front of Harry and Ron. The 2 left the hall with the cake and set up an ambush on the path that Crabbe and Goyle had to take. "Hurry up, Harry and the others are here." Ron took out his discounted wand and prepared to cast a spell on the cake. "Oh, Ron, let me do it, and why not use the ring?" Harry tapped his wand in the air, uttered a spell, and the spiked cake flew up. "It's Aiden again. He didn't tell me that casting ordinary spells with a ring would be more difficult than casting spells without a wand. Alas, casting spells without a wand." Ron showed a painful expression on his face. "Well, this is really hard work." There was no time to comfort Ron because Goyle and Crabbe came over. "Look, Crabbe, it's chocolate cake. There's still some left." Goyle eagerly grabbed the floating cake and ate it, followed by Crabbe. Then, the 2 fell into a baby-like sleep. "How stupid," Ron sneered. Harry and Ron went forward and dragged Crabbe and Goyle into the toilet and pulled the hair from them. Since Ron had little experience, he pulled a handful of hair from Goyle. Ron looked at the bald spot on Goyle's face and fell silent. "Come on, Ron, what are you dawdling about for?" Harry urged. "Here it comes." Ron hurriedly chased after him. The 2 of them trotted to the bathroom on the 2nd floor, where Hermione was already waiting for them. "Okay, you got your hair?" Hermione asked. "Got it, what is that?" Ron asked. "Slytherin robes. I stole them from the laundry," Hermione replied. The potion was ready and Hermione poured the potion from the cauldron into the cup. "Okay, just add the hair and then drink it." The 3 of them put the obtained hair into the potion. Cheers! The cups made a crisp sound when they collided, and the 3 of them drank the potion. "Oh my god, that's gross." Ron rushed to the toilet first. Crabbe's polyjuice potion tasted like boiled cabbage. Hermione did the same thing as Ron. She transformed incorrectly and also hid in the toilet cubicle. The one in the best condition was Harry. Goyle's polyjuice potion was full of earthy smell, but it was not enough to make Harry vomit. He witnessed his own transformation process in front of the mirror. Ron. Harry, who had completely transformed into Goyle, looked at Crabbe in front of him. "It's me," Crabbe replied. "Hermione, did you succeed?" Goyle inquired. "You guys go first, I can't go." Hermione's voice came from behind the partition. "Hermione, are you all right?" Crabbe asked. "Go away, you're wasting time," Hermione shouted. So Crabbe and Goyle walked out of the bathroom, but unfortunately they were discovered by Percy, who was patrolling. Fortunately, Draco, who was looking for Crabbe and Goyle, found them. Draco confronted Percy for a while and led the 2 away. Arriving at the door of Slytherin, Crabbe and Goyle were stopped by the password again. "What are you 2 standing there for? Come on!" Draco gave the command and led the 2 into the common room. In the common room, a dragon who had eaten too much and was out to digest his food was sitting on the sofa. Unfortunately, the people around him seemed to ignore him. Draco took the lead and sat next to a dragon. The strange thing was that he should have sat directly on the dragon, but while sitting down, he leaned strangely to the left. This made Crab and Goyle, who were standing in front of him, feel very strange. "Come on, sit down, you two. What are you standing there for?" Draco asked them to sit down. The two of them sat down on the sofa opposite Draco stiffly. "I can't believe the Weasleys are pure bloods. They bring shame to the wizarding world." Draco relaxed his guard in his own territory and started to speak ill of others. Crab clenched his fists. "What's wrong with you, Crab?" Draco looked at Crab, who was livid. Goyle nudged him with his elbow and said, "He has a stomachache. Then you'd better go to the hospital wing and remember to kick those petrified guys hard a few times." Draco showed a knowing expression, and then he continued. "I'm curious why the Daily Prophet didn't report the attack on the school. Dumbledore must have suppressed it, and that nasty Pruitt." Draco was smugly saying bad things about others, but what he didn't know was that a pair of beautiful heterochromatic eyes were staring at him. Draco shuddered when he felt the coldness and quickly changed the subject. "And Dumbledore, no wonder my dad said he was the biggest scourge Hogwarts has ever seen." "You are wrong." Goyle could not stand Dumbledore being insulted. Draco stood up, glared at Goyle and said, "You think there's anyone more annoying than Dumbledore? Come on, don't you?" Draco questioned Goyle loudly, and suddenly Goyle had a flash of inspiration and said, "Harry Potter." Draco was satisfied with the answer. "A saint, Pot. Well said. How dare people still think of him as the heir of Slytherin?" Draco turned to walk towards the table, but suddenly he tripped. Draco fell heavily to the ground, but he didn't notice anything and just thought he had slipped. He struggled to get up from the floor, but he stumbled every time he tried to get up, and Draco gave up. "Help me!" He asked for help from his two younger brothers. Goyle hurried forward, helped Draco up, and began to extract information from Draco. Finally, Goyle also learned from Draco about the opening of the Chamber of Secrets and the fact that Draco knew nothing about the heir. When the time for the Polyjuice potion was about to end, the two hurriedly escaped from Slytherin. After having enough fun, Aiden took Arthur's eye and walked out of the Slytherin common room silently. His prank was buried in the mysterious castle by the night. Chapter 110. Night Tour, Horcrux. As the potion wore off, Harry and Ron quickly returned to their original selves. The two of them trotted back to the bathroom on the second floor. "Hermione, we have a lot to tell you." Harry and Ron knocked on the door outside the compartment. "Go away." Hermione's voice was very dull. Myrtle's head popped out of the compartment door and she said to Harry and Ron, "You guys go and see it, it's really evil." "Hermione, are you okay?" Harry was about to go up and push the door. "Maybe she's not okay." A pleasant young voice came from behind the two of them. "Ah!" Harry and Ron were startled and looked back to see two figures standing behind them. The visitors were Aiden and Arthur's. "Aiden, Arthur's." Harry's voice contained confusion. "I seem to have found someone in trouble, so I brought a helper with me." Aiden pointed at Arthur's, who was holding a cloak. Arthur's walked into the compartment and wrapped Hermione in the cloak. "Wait, did you know that I would drink the Polyjuice potion with cat hair in it?" Hermione was a little unbelievable, and looked at Aiden with accusatory eyes. "I discovered it when you took the hair from Millicent Bulstrode at the dinner. When I returned to the lounge, I saw Millicent holding her cat again, so I assume you took the cat hair and notified Aiden." Arthur explained the whole story and kicked Aiden, who was holding a monocle and taking a photo. "Well, it's just an incorrect transformation. It's not a big deal. Madame Pomfrey can cure it. Let's send Hermione to the medical wing first," Aiden said seriously. He took out his wand and cast an disillusionment charm on Hermione, while Ron beside him looked at Aiden eagerly. "What about us?" Ron asked puzzled. "My dear brother, why do you want to be invisible? You don't have cat hair on your face." Aiden was speechless. Several people sent Hermione to the medical wing. In the medical wing, Madame Pomfrey lifted the veil and saw a huge cat's head. "Oh, naughty little wizard, why can't you listen to the warnings in the textbook? You are the 20th little wizard I have found who adds animal hair to Polyjuice potion since I started practicing." Madame Pomfrey lectured, her hands on her hips, and Hermione lowered her head. Seeing Hermione's look, Madame Pomfrey didn't make things too difficult for her. She took out a bottle of potion and gave it to her. This is a recovery potion developed specifically for your situation. The remaining polyjuice in your body will be vomited out in the form of hairballs, and you will recover after vomiting. After drinking the potion, Hermione began to vomit hairballs. As the situation was too restrictive, Aiden and Arthur left the medical wing. The two were walking on their way back to the dormitory when the curfew bell suddenly rang. Looks like we're going to break school rules. Aiden raised an eyebrow. Oh, then why not take a tour of this mysterious castle? Arthur suggested. So, Aiden pulled Arthur into the blind spot of his consciousness, and they wandered around aimlessly in the Hogwarts castle. The bright moonlight splashes on the outer walls of Hogwarts, adding a touch of tranquility to the night. But this peace was soon broken by a little wizard hurrying in with a black notebook in hand. It attracted the attention of two dragons hiding in the blind spot of their consciousness. The dragons found something interesting and followed it. The little wizard was in a hurry and did not notice the dragon following him. He anxiously went to the bathroom on the second floor. The dim light from the bathroom illuminated the face of the little wizard, who was none other than Ernie Macmillan. "You are not my friend, Tom. I can feel you controlling me. Why do you spread so many rumors about Harry?" Ernie was talking to the diary, and the diary was trembling slightly, as if responding to him. At this moment, in the blind spot of consciousness, the two dragons were chatting idly. "Oh, is the little wizard from Gryffindor so pathetic that he has to be friends with a notebook?" Arthur was taken by Aiden to watch the show. She had the energy to complain while enjoying the show. "It's rare to see a play like this, and have you seen that notebook?" Aiden pointed to the notebook that Ernie was holding in his hand. "What's wrong?" "It's just an old notebook." Arthur asked, puzzled. "No, this is the secret of Voldemort's immortality, an evil dark magic item." Aiden told her the truth. "Are you talking about Volume Voldemort?" Arthur still couldn't say the man's name smoothly. "Can't you even just say his name?" Aiden asked curiously. "I suddenly feel fear when I say it. It must be because he cast a spell." Arthur frowned. "This is really interesting. If I can catch him one day, I can study this spell." Aiden stroked his chin and thought. In the bathroom, Ernie's monologue was coming to an end. "No, I can't go on like this. I'm breaking up with you, Tom." Ernie picked up the black diary and threw it to the ground. Then he turned around and ran out of the bathroom, leaving only two dragons watching the show in the empty bathroom. Aiden went forward, picked up the diary, opened it and took a look. "It doesn't seem to be anything special," said Arthur. "That's because you're still viewing it from a realistic perspective." In Aiden's eyes, from the perspective of the sea of consciousness, the diary in his hand was an island flowing with magma. What rises from the island is not bubbles representing dreams, but dark sulfur smoke. Inside the island, you can also see the roaring souls of those who died in vain. It's still a diary. Aiden touched the cover of the book. Who would write a diary? He complained secretly. Who can write down their true feelings in a diary? The system continued Aiden's words. What is written can be expressed as what is in your heart. Aiden raised the corner of his mouth. Despicable. What's wrong with you? Why are you suddenly laughing? Arthur next to her was full of question marks. No, it's nothing. Just leave the diary here. Don't touch it. It's dangerous. Aiden told Arthur seriously. Okay, I get it. Why are you chattering like my father? Besides, we are all educated and don't believe in things that hide our minds. Arthur winked at Aiden. Then she cast a disillusionment charm and left the bathroom. Professor, come out. Aiden suddenly spoke after Arthur left. Good evening, Mr. Pruitt. Professor McGonagall came out from the partition. This sudden change made Aiden stunned for a moment. Ahem, it's you, Professor McGonagall. I thought it was the headmaster. Well, you go ahead and do your work. I'm going back to sleep. Aiden was ready to turn around and run away. Stop, Mr. Pruitt. As an exception this time, I won't deduct your marks. You have to tell me what this is and why Dumbledore told me to keep an eye on the little wizard who got it. Professor McGonagall looked at Aiden sternly, hoping to break down his defenses, but unfortunately it didn't work. Didn't the principal tell you? Aiden asked curiously. Him? He's always talking nonsense and pretending to be mysterious. Do you know that I've been handling all the school affairs all these years? And... oh no, I'm losing my composure. Let's talk about this notebook. Professor McGonagall had just started talking, but her good manners allowed her to stop talking instantly and get the topic back on track. This is actually Voldemort's Horcrux, Aiden introduced. You're not sure who this is? Horcrux, that sounds a little familiar. Professor McGonagall was startled at first, and then became confused. It is an evil magic that achieves the purpose of resurrection by killing and splitting souls, Aiden reminded. I remember, Albus, how could he leave something so dangerous in the school? Professor McGonagall was about to go up and copy the diary, and then go to the principal's office to vent her pent-up emotions. Wait, Mr. Pruitt, how do you know this thing so well? Professor McGonagall discovered the blind spot. Well, you know Pruitt once fought against him. Aiden pointed to his eyes. Professor McGonagall nodded and let Aiden leave. Chapter 111, Informing and Remembering. Aiden hurried back to the dormitory and spent a restful night. Although I don't know what kind of storm the principal's office experienced last night. But the next day, in the hall, Aiden saw the black diary appear in Harry's hands. It seems that their fate seems to be extremely wonderful. Arthur She sat next to Aiden with a tray of food. In order not to attract too much attention, Aiden had to use psychological invisibility. What are you doing here? Aren't you afraid that you will be ostracized by your little sisters when you go back? Aiden teased. You are my boss. Why should I care about them when you are protecting me? And I don't know why, every time you take me through the crowd, the feeling of not being discovered is really nostalgic. Arthur She focused on finishing the food on her plate and took the time to answer Aiden's questions. Tell me, how did the notebook come into the hands of the Savior? Will the Savior and the Dark Lord clash again this year? Arthur She enjoyed the food on her plate elegantly, but the delicious food couldn't stop her gossiping. I met Professor McGonagall after you left last night, so I guess this thing must have been given to Harry by his head of house. Aiden briefly explained the whole story and satisfied Arthur She's curiosity. Arthur She, who had successfully caught up with the sequel, happily left with her plate. In the afternoon, after finishing the herbology class, Aiden came to the room of requirement. Oliver was already practicing spells in there before him. Aiden thought about the matter of Oliver's father for a long time, and finally he decided to tell Oliver about it and let him judge the matter himself. Oliver, stop, I have something to tell you. Aiden called. Oliver, in the middle of the dueling room, threw a shattering curse at the practice dummy, shattering the target. What's wrong, Aiden? Oliver wiped the sweat off his forehead and walked towards Aiden. Before, I went back home at Christmas time and received some news from the Department of Mysteries about your father. Hearing Aiden's words, Oliver's face darkened and he looked at Aiden with solemn eyes. According to the Department of Mysteries, they have tracked down a group of people who share the same cult as your father. Aiden glanced at Oliver, the angry red light on his body beginning to leave the edge of his body. You think my father was bewitched by them? I'm not sure. How could he, an ordinary person, be exposed to the things in the magical world? I'm sure. Oliver clenched his fists, his anger flying everywhere, and he gritted his teeth and said. I'm going to kill them. Oliver, calm down. We need to investigate. What if it's not the case? Aiden used hypnosis to slowly extinguish Oliver's anger. It doesn't matter. These guys who sacrifice others to beg for the devil's mercy should not live in this world. Oliver said firmly. Well, although it is inappropriate to say this, he seems to have scolded his father. The system bubbled appropriately. System, what are you doing? The atmosphere is completely gone. Aiden pinched the gem on his neck. You think so too, Aiden? Oliver's red eyes swept over. Wow, even this sentence is so similar to his father. Aiden, who has been led astray by the system, can never go back. Well, yes, that's right, I think so too. Aiden said righteously. While Aiden was awkwardly dealing with Oliver in the room of requirement, Harry, with Ron, went to visit Hermione, taking the black diary he had picked up. In the medical wing, Hermione's hairball had been almost vomited away, but at least her face had regained its human shape. This is the diary I found. The owner is Tom Marvolo Riddle. Harry gave the diary to his friends to play with. Tom in the diary said, I remember. I've seen this name before. 50 years ago, he won the school's Special Contribution Award. Ron also knew the source of the familiarity. Malfoy's father also said that the Chamber of Secrets was opened 50 years ago. Perhaps you can get details about the Chamber of Secrets from him, Hermione suggested. That's a great deduction, Hermione, but there's one small flaw. There's nothing written in the diary. Harry opened the diary and showed it to Hermione. It was indeed empty. At night, Harry opened his diary alone in the Gryffindor common room, and a pair of beautiful heterochromatic eyes appeared beside him. Harry tried to write on it, laughing, but the ink he dripped on was quickly absorbed by the diary. After turning a few pages, Harry did not find the ink he had dropped on them, so he wrote in his diary again. My name is Harry Potter. The diary absorbed the ink Harry had written, and a line of words appeared on the diary. My name is Tom Riddle. Then, Harry asked about the Chamber of Secrets, and the diary told Harry to witness what happened 50 years ago. The diary glowed white, opening a passage to the Island of Consciousness and sucking Harry in. But what the diary didn't expect was that Aiden, after dealing with Oliver, also accepted the invitation. The light faded, and Harry arrived at Hogwarts 50 years ago and began to watch the memories that Senior Tom had carefully edited for him. And a dragon who was trying to take advantage of the situation was invited to Senior Tom's Island of Consciousness. Let me see if Senior Tom has lived a healthy life these years. Aiden took out his staff and began to scan the internal structure of the Horcrux. Well, Senior Tom is really a genius. He actually improved the Horcrux. He used the souls of the killed as nails and nailed his own soul to the item, allowing the two resentful souls to bite each other. As magic flowed on the Island of Consciousness, Aiden gradually figured out the truth about the Horcrux. System, give me some ideas, how can we dispel this thing without damaging the object? Aiden asked. Are you planning to leave the Founder's relics behind? The system asked. Of course not. People in our area love antiques the most. Aiden raised his eyebrows. The system offers a suggestion, use the Tiwaz rune. Justice, sacrifice? Who should I ask? I can't expect Senior Tom to have a change of heart. Aiden shook his head. No, we can count on that suffering soul, Myrtle. The system gave the answer. But this method becomes a targeted solution. I need a general method. The system interrupted Aiden's words. Negative, sacrifice is replaceable. The system made the rune appear. We don't need to find the soul's original mental body, we just need to write a ruling rune into it. Making sacrifice voluntary? This is such an evil system. Aiden couldn't help but say it out loud. Who? The entire Island of Consciousness shook. Senior Tom discovered the intruders and was trying to repel all the people stranded on the island. Harry, who was watching the movie next to him, also entered the staff subtitles. He shouted Hagrid and flew backwards. There was a flash of white light, and two people appeared in the Gryffindor common room. Aiden, why are you here? We don't have time to talk about this now. Harry hurriedly ran up the tower. Aiden shrugged and returned to Ravenclaw Tower as well. Chapter 112. Lover Chapter, Lessons. In the hospital wing, Madame Pomfrey watched Hermione drink the last potion and then told her that she could be discharged. Having obtained permission, Hermione quickly disappeared into the medical wing like a bird that had regained its freedom. In the courtyard of Hogwarts, Ron saw Hermione returning. Hi, Hermione, you're finally well again. Ron sent a greeting. Where's Harry? Hermione asked when she saw Harry chasing after her from behind. Hermione, you're recovered, that's great. Harry smiled. So, did you get any information from the diary? Hermione asked. Yes, I know, it was Hagrid, he opened the Chamber of Secrets, Harry replied. Absolutely impossible. Hermione shook her head in denial. In her eyes, Hagrid was kind and friendly and would never release a monster to kill Muggle students. We don't actually know who Tom Riddle is, and he sounds like a snitch. Ron said nonchalantly. That monster killed people, Ron, what should we do if it were us? Harry questioned Ron. Listen, Hagrid is our friend, we can go ask him. Hermione looked at the two of them seriously and made a suggestion. Great, then the conversation must be friendly. Oh, Hagrid, can you tell us if you've let any furry monsters out into the school lately? Ron said, closing one eye and pouting. You hairy monsters, you won't say that to me again, will you? Hagrid appeared behind the three of them. No. Okay, go have some fun. Professor Sprout's mandrake will soon be planted. In the meantime, you three better behave yourself, okay? Hagrid looked at the three of them. While they were talking, Neville rushed over. Harry, I don't know who did this, but you'd better come and take a look. The three followed Neville back to Gryffindor. In Harry's dormitory, his belongings were in a mess and the black diary disappeared. The perpetrators must be Gryffindor students. Students from other houses can't get in. Hermione speculated as she looked at the messy room. Nothing major seemed to have happened since the diary was stolen, and time passed in this strange calm. On Valentine's Day, everyone enjoyed dinner in the hall. Aiden continued to eat his food as usual, but there were always people looking at him. With a bang, the door of the hall was suddenly pushed open. A wizard in gorgeous robes struck a pose that he thought looked handsome and slid in from outside. Good evening, young wizards of Hogwarts. Today is a grand day. Enjoy it. After saying that, Lockhart took out his wand and pointed it, and many dwarfs dressed as Cupid came running outside the door. The dwarfs walked among the little wizards and accepted their Valentine's Day cards. When one of the dwarfs was ready to look for Aiden with a bag full of greeting cards, he found that he couldn't find him no matter what. Aiden, who was sitting in the same place, raised a smug smile. You still want to find me with the invisibility spell and the Dream Walker's invisibility? Aiden, who had nothing to do, looked at the professors on the podium. They all had grim faces, as if they were disgusted by this greasy activity. At the Gryffindor table, Harry received a singing card from Ginny, who was very shy. The sharp-eyed Draco immediately started to make a noise. Look, Scarhead received a love letter from the Weasleys' little daughter. Ginny was so angry that she started crying when she heard Draco's teasing. Ron wanted to rush over and beat Draco, but was stopped by Harry. Just when Draco was feeling proud, a white hand pinched the glass bottle and dripped a few drops of liquid into the drink in his hand. That was the prank potion developed by the twins, the Fat Tongue Potion. Draco didn't notice. He raised his glass, toasted Harry provocatively, and drank the drink in the glass. Why, you dare, decide, the last knife, it's weird. After drinking the drink, Draco's speech began to become slurred, and his tongue swelled rapidly, pushing out of his lips. Crabbe and Goyle screamed when they saw their boss's long tongue and reached out to catch Draco's tongue. For a moment, the Slytherin table was filled with chaos. Ginny also laughed when she saw Draco's miserable state. A pleasant voice came from beside her. Aren't you angry anymore? Ginny looked in the direction of the voice and saw Aiden sitting next to her. Don't bother getting mad at that guy. Ginny pouted. Haha, of course, be confident, you are the little princess that your brothers love the most. With a wink at Ginny, Aiden vanished into thin air, and no one else at the Gryffindor table noticed his presence. At night, Aiden sat on the tower and looked at the moon. Wow, someone actually loves his sister so much, I didn't realize it. A blonde figure crawled up the tower. What about you? What would you do if Astoria encountered the same thing? Aiden didn't even turn his head. With his perception, he already knew who the visitor was. Maybe I'll give that guy a good punch. Arthursi waved her fist. The two of them just lay casually on the top of the tower. By the way, how did you find me? Aiden asked. It's simple. Draco offended someone and was retaliated against right after. From Miss Ginny's perspective, you are the only one who can do this silently. Arthur glanced at Aiden. No, I meant how did you know I was in the tower? Aiden deliberately watched Arthursi's pretended deep analysis without interrupting her. Arthursi blushed when she realized she had misunderstood. Humph, I saw it downstairs. I thought there was some idiot who was desperate and came up to see if there was any inheritance to receive. Arthursi turned her head away. Well, it's a good thing that you're here. There's something important that needs your attention. Aiden said seriously. Arthursi didn't respond and waited for Aiden's next words. I need you to collect the information about the people Gilderoy Lockhart has come into contact with since entering the campus. Use props to deliver the message, and try not to attract too much attention. Aiden pointed to the monocle on his eye socket. He's just a liar, what's there to investigate? Did he cheat your family out of money? Arthuri was puzzled. No, I suspect he has something to do with the Deep Realm. Aiden pointed to his head. Arthuri immediately understood, okay, I'll try to pay attention. Don't go too deep, and always put your own safety first. If things get impossible, just give up. As a spectator, you should know how to protect yourself. Aiden raised his eyebrows. Nonsense, you don't even need to say that. Arthuri rolled her eyes. Then she left the tower, and the conversation on the rooftop was quickly drowned out by the whistling of the wind. Chapter 113. After receiving Aiden's order, Arthuri began to gather information about Lockhart. All the affairs of the school are proceeding in an orderly manner, and the match between Gryffindor and Hufflepuff is about to begin. Harry left the Great Hall with Ron and Hermione to get his Quidditch equipment, just as his feet stepped onto the marble stairs. He heard the voice again, "Kill it this time, let me tear it apart, bite it." Harry yelled, making Ron and Hermione jump. "That sound," said Harry. He looked over his shoulder. "I just heard it again, didn't you?" Ron shook his head and opened his eyes wide, while Hermione put her hand to her forehead. "Harry, I think I've just realized something. I have to go to the library." Then Hermione rushed up the stairs and left. "What did she understand?" said Harry distractedly. "That's beyond my comprehension," said Ron, shaking his head. "But why did she go to the library?" "Because that's exactly Hermione's style." Ron shrugged. "Whenever in doubt, she goes to the library." Harry stood hesitantly, hoping to hear the voice again. But the crowd was pouring out of the Great Hall behind him, noisily, out the front door and toward the Quidditch pitch. "You'd better hurry up," said Ron. "It's almost 11 o'clock and the game is about to start." Harry quickly retrieved his broom and ran to the Quidditch pitch. But his heart remained in the castle, worrying about the strange sound. As he put on his uniform in the locker room, his only comfort was that everyone was now waiting outside to watch the game. The players walked onto the field to a warm-up reception, with Wood doing a warm-up flight around the post. Madam Hooch served the ball and the players in their buff jerseys gathered together to discuss tactics at the last minute. As Harry mounted his broom he saw Professor McGonagall half walking, half running across the field carrying a huge purple microphone. "The game is cancelled." Professor McGonagall's voice echoed in the stadium. Aiden stood up and connected the runes to check the basilisk. Sure enough, a basilisk was roaming the Hogwarts castle. "Aiden, I found it." Arthur's communication was connected to Aiden's glasses. "What?" Aiden quickly replied. "Gilderoy Lockhart actually brought an assistant into the school. He applied for free access to the school for his assistant on the pretext that the newspaper needed to collect materials." Arthur's communication suddenly went offline. Arthuri, Arthuri." Aiden called Arthuri through the commuter as he ran into the castle. Aiden used his ability to quickly locate the other pair of glasses. She was still moving at high speed, which made Aiden feel relieved. Finally, Aiden intercepted Arthuri at a corner and took her into the blind spot of consciousness. Hi, this is so exciting." Apparently the chase had made this lady lose all regard for her manners, and Arthuri was breathing heavily. And in the corridor behind, there were footsteps approaching quickly. A short wizard wearing a purple turban appeared in front of the two. "It's just..." Arthur was about to speak, but Aiden reached out and covered her mouth. It was just such a tiny fluctuation that made the wizard in front of him smile. He took out a pair of dried eyeballs, lit them with his magic wand, and muttered something. "To my glorious lord, please grant me eyes that can see through illusions." Then, a mysterious wave came from the distant sky, accurately attaching to the wizard's eyes. In the wizard's sight, everything around him turned into a collection of lines. He looked around and finally found lines that were different from the surrounding environment where Aiden and Arthur were. Although they were extremely blurry, he could barely make out the outlines. "Haha, I found you." The wizard gave a twisted and hideous grin towards where Aiden was. "Arthur, please leave first." Aiden waved to Arthuri, who nodded and left quickly. "Look at you, what pure spiritual power you have. If I can use you, my lord will surely grant me more blessings." Ha 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 ha. Because his opponent was a young wizard and was in Hogwarts, the careless wizard casually took out his wand and fired a petrification spell at Aiden. Unfortunately, he didn't pick any easy targets. Aiden raised his hand slightly, and a long staff emerged. The attack magic, Zoltraok, hit the wizard at an extremely fast speed, and the explosion blew him away. The wizard who was blown away displayed an unparalleled ability to fly backwards in the air, then fell heavily to the ground and rolled several times. Cough cough. The wizard sat up with difficulty and coughed up a mouthful of blood. He murmured poems from ancient times, and the ancient rhythm echoed here. It does not teach or seek worship. It just stands at the edge of the universe, quietly observing the birth and death of everything. Seeing the wizard start to cast a spell, Aiden took a step forward, grabbed his neck and lifted him up. Forcing the wizard to look at him, Aiden's eyes flashed with an imperceptible light, and then he ruthlessly knocked the wizard to the ground, physical version. The wizard fell into a coma, and Aiden's body began to fade away, slipping into the wizard's dream. On the wizard's island of consciousness, the light of reason was obscured by fog, and clear thinking was replaced by chaos. In the fog, the roars of wild beasts could be heard from time to time. Has his rationality been clouded? I roughly know whose followers he is. These people are really something. Aiden sighed. He spread his wings and began to fly toward the bubbles floating above. Entering the bubble, Aiden checked the content he wanted. Just as Aiden was searching his memory, a voice of Klinra attracted Aiden's attention, and he flew towards the dream. In the dream, the wizard walked through a dark tunnel and came to a house whose outline could not be seen clearly. He pushed open the door and walked in. Inside the room was a huge long table. Many people, with their faces covered with robes, were sitting beside the table, not saying a word. "Calvin, you're late," said the man sitting in the middle of the long table. "I'm sorry, speaker. I was busy with some newspaper work." The wizard. Calvin lowered his head and apologized. "Okay, now that everyone is here, let's start this meeting. Today's topic is mainly about the sacrifice ceremony of Counselor Clinell." The speaker's narration seemed to be getting farther and farther away, and his voice became increasingly indifferent. "Aiden Pruitt." When Aiden was concentrating on hearing what the speaker said, someone called his name from behind. Aiden turned around, and suddenly the scene around him turned white, and a man in a platinum robe stood in front of Aiden. "Why are you here again?" Aiden looked at the director of the Department of Mysteries, and his originally beautiful heterochromatic eyes turned into dead fish eyes. "Careless Long, look at where you have lost yourself." The director narrowed his eyes. "A hazy illusion." Aiden looked around and understood his situation. So this person is just a bait. Aiden understood immediately. It's not directed at you. After all, both of us are forces that have touched the field of consciousness, so we naturally have some special protective measures. The director smiled. "Then how did you know I would fall here?" Aiden asked curiously. "Your mass is too huge. Every time you approach the deep world, it will set off an alarm. That's why we are here." The director spread his hands. "You guys." Aiden looked behind him and saw a large group of silent people taking photos and checking in. "Okay, I won't waste time with you. I'm leaving." The shy dragon quickly escaped from the hazy illusion. Chapter 114, Petrification 3, Educator. Back to reality, Calvin is still in a coma. The box is flying. Aiden used the flying spell to summon his suitcase and put Calvin in it. On the other side, Arthurshi and Snape arrived here. "What are you doing, Aiden Pruitt?" Snape came up and was about to start scolding, but Aiden interrupted him. "I'm sorry, Professor, this matter is beyond our scope. Come with me to the principal's office first." "Arthurshi, you come too." After saying that, Aiden winked at Arthurshi, and Arthurshi followed him. The group hurried to the principal's office. Inside the office, the leisurely principal was holding his beloved pile of cockroaches. A roach pile fell onto the table and quickly crawled away as a swarm of them was seen. Aiden showed a look of disgust, but he didn't care about that anymore. "Professor, what do you think we should do with this guy?" As he spoke, Aiden opened the suitcase and shook out Calvin. "What is this?" Dumbledore was a little confused. "It's about the affairs of the unspeakables." He hesitated and glanced at Snape. Dumbledore understood and said, "It's okay. Severus is also an insider." Arthurshi glanced at her dean secretly and felt that he was a very capable person. Then, "Miss Greengrass, you go back first," Snape said to Arthurshi. "No need, she is also an insider and a victim," Aiden explained. Snape looked at Arthurshi, then at Aiden, and said nothing. "Last month, I met the director of the Unspeakables on the streets of London. He told me that a group of lunatics had sent people to sneak into Hogwarts." Aiden began to explain the cause of the incident. "Well, they sent me a notification as well." Dumbledore nodded and motioned for Aiden to continue. "At the same time, when your plan was progressing in an orderly manner, I suddenly noticed Lockhart. I notified Arthurshi to pay attention to Lockhart's interpersonal relationships and found that he was authorizing someone to enter Hogwarts as an assistant." Aiden kicked the unconscious Colvin and said, "Then, this guy was discovered by Arthursi and started chasing Arthursi. Hi, our Mr. Pruitt really has a wide network of contacts." Snape crossed his arms. "Anyway, what to do with this guy now, and I suspect they may have reached some degree of cooperation with Tom." Aiden looked at Colvin and remembered his embarrassment of being watched in the hazy illusion. He was about to take out his magic wand and light a fire on him. "Okay, I see. I'm personally keeping an eye on Tom. There's a high probability that there's no problem. They may not have had time to contact Tom yet." Dumbledore slowly picked up a cockroach and put it into his mouth. "Then, where did Professor Snape get such detailed information?" Aiden pointed the finger at Snape again. "Humph, the mysterious man was once funded by these people, and if it weren't for the later differences in ideas, the mysterious man might have become their current speaker." Professor Snape mentioned the past, and a trace of pain flashed in his eyes, then quickly dissipated. "My suggestion is to give this man to the unspeakable." Dumbledore looked at the unconscious Colvin and decided where he should go. On the other side, Professor McGonagall took Harry and Ron to the medical wing. "I warn you in advance, this might scare you." Professor McGonagall walked in front. In the hospital wing, Madame Pomfrey was taking care of the petrified Hermione. Seeing Hermione lying stiffly on the hospital bed, Harry and Ron's faces darkened. "Hermione!" Ron's voice was almost hoarse. "We found her near the library. She was holding a mirror in her hand. Do you know what this means?" Professor McGonagall seemed to be sad too, but only seemed so. "We will find the murderer, Professor, I promise you." Harry stroked Hermione's stiff fingers. Afterwards, Harry and Ron returned to the Gryffindor common room. The twins were surrounding Percy and taunting him, and Percy seemed to be greatly frightened. "What's wrong?" Ron asked. "Aha, Percy's girlfriend, Penelope Clearwater, has also been petrified." George put his arm around Ron's shoulders. Percy was frightened, maybe because he thought the monster would give the prefect some face. Fred took over George's words. "Okay, you two, this is too much," Ron scolded. "Oh, is our lovely little Ronnie also scared?" the twins said half-jokingly. "Hermione was petrified too," Ron said dejectedly. The twins also stopped smiling. At noon, Professor McGonagall came to Gryffindor Tower and announced the new rules. She stood in the Gryffindor common room holding a roll of parchment. "Students, please note that due to recent events, we must implement new regulations." She handed the parchment to the distraught Percy and tapped him on the head. "Every student must be back in the college common room by 6 o'clock every evening. Every student will be accompanied by a professor during class, no one is exempted." Professor McGonagall paused and looked at Harry. "I have to tell you that unless the killer is found, we have to close the school." After saying that, Professor McGonagall turned and left, leaving only the dull common room. For some time, the lives of the young wizards were extremely depressing. "Every day I go back and forth between the lounge and the classroom, and even my meals have to be taken in the lounge. This hall is covered in dust." Aiden wandered the halls, and soon his radar scanned a high-energy unit. "And does it really have to be such a big fuss, Professor Dumbledore?" "Aiden, you have to know that the old man doesn't have much time. Before that day comes, I need to eliminate as many enemies as possible for this school." Dumbledore's voice came from the stage. He was sitting in the headmaster's seat in the middle of the stage. The half-moon glasses glowed with crystal white light under the candlelight, and he himself was like a tall watchman gazing at his beloved homeland. "Being a principal is really hard." Aiden pushed up his glasses. The reflection from the glasses obscured half of his eyes, making it impossible to guess what he was thinking. "That's not necessarily the case. Nothing can make me happier than watching the young people I teach walk towards the future they love and watching every young soul embark on their journey." Dumbledore spoke, and the tall watcher disappeared, leaving only the kind educator in front of him. "Then you have to hold on for a while." Aiden waved his hand, and his figure gradually faded into the air. "I find it amazing every time I watch it. This is really the joy of being an educator," Dumbledore murmured to himself. Chapter 115. Hagrid is imprisoned. In Gryffindor, Harry and Ron finally couldn't stand the boredom of the time, so they decided to confront Hagrid. "I don't believe it was him. If he was the one who opened the Chamber of Secrets last time, he should know something. This is our key to the truth." Harry made up his mind. "But Professor McGonagall said we have to stay in the tower unless we have classes," said Ron. "I think." Harry became calmer. "We still have an invisibility cloak that we can use." Harry rummaged through the drawers and found the invisibility cloak. When his roommates fell asleep, he and Ron got up, dressed, put on their invisibility cloaks and left the dormitory. It was not a pleasant experience to walk through the dark and silent corridors of the castle. Even Harry and Ron, who had been there many times and were experienced, had never seen Hogwarts so crowded. Professors, prefects, and ghosts patrolled the corridors of Hogwarts, alert to possible dangers. Although the invisibility cloak made it difficult for the two to be discovered, it could not mask their voices. Suddenly, Snape appeared from the corner of the corridor. Recalling Aiden's teachings, Harry hurriedly covered Ron's eyes. After a while, the footsteps faded away and Harry let Ron go. "What are you doing? You scared me to death just now." Ron scolded. "Aiden said that powerful wizards don't rely solely on vision. The last time I approached him wearing an invisibility cloak, he discovered me," Harry explained. "Well, let's go to Hagrid." Ron pulled Harry through the castle gate and to the edge of the Forbidden Forest. The two stopped outside Hagrid's hut. It was a rare clear night in England, and the stars in the night sky were extremely bright. "It's a nice night, isn't it?" A clear young man's voice sounded behind the two of them. "Ah!" Harry was startled, and Ron put on the ring and pointed in the direction of the sound. "Aiden, why is it that every time you get it?" Ron pulled his brother and started complaining. "I'll be more careful next time, definitely next time." Aiden made a cooing sound like a pigeon. Inside the house, Hagrid, who heard the noise outside, rushed out with a crossbow in his hand, the sharp tip of the arrow pointing at the three people. "Oh, Hagrid, what are you doing with that?" Harry was surprised by Hagrid's behavior. "Come in, I made tea." Hagrid invited the three into his hut. Inside the house, Aiden rolled around on Hagrid's sofa, stretched, and touched Yaya's head. Hagrid poured each of the three a cup of boiling water, but without the tea bags. This temperature was nothing to Aiden. He glanced at the absent-minded Hagrid, picked up the cup and drank it. "Drinking more hot water is good for your health." This made Harry and Ron's eyes widen. Harry put down his water glass and asked, "Hagrid, have you heard about Hermione?" "Oh, I heard that, I'm so sorry," Hagrid replied. "Listen, we want to ask you something. Do you know who opened the door to the Chamber of Secrets?" Harry asked. "You need to understand one thing." Hagrid was about to speak when a knock on the door interrupted him. "Hurry, hide under the invisibility cloak and remember to keep quiet." Hagrid called to the three people. "No, I don't need it. I came here for this very thing." Aiden shook his head. Hagrid couldn't persuade Aiden, so he walked over and opened the door. Dumbledore and Fudge were standing at their door. Ron, who was under the invisibility cloak, saw the person coming and introduced him to Harry. "That's my father's boss, the Minister of Magic, Cornelius Fudge." "Oh, Aiden is here too. It's too late today. Little wizard, go back to sleep first." Dumbledore knew exactly what Aiden was here for, but he deliberately sent him away. "Okay, I'll remember you." Aiden gave him a threatening look, but Dumbledore pretended not to see it. "Well, Mr. Pruitt, the little wizard should rest early. When I was in Hogwarts." Fudge is indeed a politician. Even though he suffered such a big setback last time, he was still able to face Aiden with ease this time. "Dear Minister, after all, Hagrid is also my friend. Your ruling, dictatorship, that I am present as his defense attorney should be in line with the requirements of the law." Aiden gave himself a reasonable excuse, and Fudge couldn't get angry, so he could only change the subject. Honestly, Hagrid, this mission is extremely difficult. I have to come. The 3 Muggle descendants have been attacked. This is a big deal. The Ministry of Magic must take action. Fudge wiped the sweat from his face and pretended to be forced into a dilemma. But you know it wasn't me, Professor Dumbledore. Dumbledore was calm and composed. I trust Hagrid 100%. I have absolute trust in him. Albus, you know, Hagrid's record is not in his favor. We must take him away. Fudge smiled smugly. Take me there. Just as Hagrid was about to continue, Aiden patted his stomach and signaled him to be quiet. I'm afraid that's not possible, Mr. Minister. Azkaban is a place where prisoners are held. According to Article 12 of the Magic Regulations, no one can be considered a prisoner before being tried by the Wizengamot. Aiden sat down casually on the sofa, crossed his legs, and revealed his beautiful figure. Oh, maybe this is something for us adults. Before Fudge could finish, he was interrupted by Aiden. Oh, are you going to question the authority of the law? Perhaps your head of the Department of Magical Law Enforcement, Amelia Bones, would have a different view. Damn it, Pruitt. Fudge's teeth were clenched tightly, but the smile on his face became more kind. Dumbledore continued to paddle aside, but the joy on his face could hardly be concealed. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door and a man with platinum blonde hair walked in. Oh, you're already here, Fudge. Lucius walked in. What are you doing here? Get out of my house. Hagrid couldn't help but speak. Believe me, I have no intention of walking into this house of yours. Lucius wandered around and almost bumped into Harry. I came here only because someone told me that the headmaster was here. Lucius turned and walked towards Dumbledore. So, what brings you to me? Dumbledore still looked as if it had nothing to do with him. The other school directors and I all think that you should leave. Here is your suspension order, signed by all the school directors. Lucius handed a roll of parchment to Dumbledore, looked at Fudge, and they smiled at each other. That's not necessarily true, Master Malfoy. Aiden stood up, took out a ring engraved with the Pruitt family crest and put it on. I bet there's no Pruitt signature on it, is there? Aiden took the suspension order and spread it out. It's useless. 11 school directors have already voted in favor of it. Lucius snatched the suspension order. Dumbledore gave Aiden a look that said help me. Aiden gave him a helpless look in return. You can't fire Dumbledore. Without him, there will be no hope for the Muggle descendants. Hagrid took a step forward excitedly. Oh, your problem has not been dealt with yet. Since there is no way to send you to Azkaban, the Ministry of Magic will detain you first. Is that okay with you, Mr. Pruitt? Fudge stood up and still looked at Aiden kindly, but his tone was not very friendly. Okay, but I demand that the detainees be given normal treatment, have normal rights to rest and food, and not be tortured. Otherwise, the Wizarding World's big and small media should be looking forward to major news from the Ministry of Magic. Aiden rolled up his beautiful eyes, which sparkled like 2 gems. You, hi. Fudge was choked by Aiden and turned around and walked out of Hagrid's hut. Chapter 116. Leaving school. Fuji came with high hopes but left with low hopes. In Hagrid's hut, Lucius was still waiting for Dumbledore's answer. If the board wants me to leave, then of course I will leave. Dumbledore took the suspension order and walked up to Lucius, with Harry and Ron hiding behind him. But as long as someone in Hogwarts sends out a distress signal, someone will definitely lend a helping hand. Dumbledore lowered his head, his blue pupils looking over his half-moon glasses at the 2 people hiding under the invisibility cloak. Lucius was frightened. He looked around and looked behind him for a long time. After confirming that there was no group of Order of the Phoenix people ambushing behind him, he regained his confidence. That's really touching. Please come in. After saying that, Lucius walked out. 2 Aurors walked in from outside the door, ready to take Hagrid away. Before leaving, Hagrid shouted, if anyone needs to find something, all they need to do is follow the spider. After saying that, Hagrid was taken away by the Aurors. Oh, Aiden, remember to feed Fang for me. Hagrid turned around suddenly, and the 2 Aurors who were holding him were thrown directly to the ground. The adults all left, leaving only 3 people in the house. Harry and Ron took off their invisibility cloaks. Oh, what about Aiden? Now that Dumbledore has left, there will be attacks every day. Ron was very anxious. Don't worry, the headmaster has worked at Hogwarts for so many years, he must be fully prepared to leave. Aiden lazily sat back on the sofa and touched Yaya's head again. You'll have to take care of this little guy for a while, Harry and Ron. What? Didn't Hagrid give it to you before he left? Said Ron. I can't help it. I need to prepare evidence to exonerate Hagrid, and I also need to personally guide public opinion to form a siege on the Ministry of Magic. Aiden's beautiful heterochromatic eyes gleamed with a gleam of light. Ron, who knew him well, knew that this was a sign of Aiden's anger. Aiden then left Hagrid's hut. The next day, Aiden woke up from the bed. He picked up Radha and said, "Help me watch Harry Potter." The kitten responded with a humane understanding. Next, he came to Professor Flitwick's office. But the interesting thing is that Dumbledore is already waiting for him here. Albus, is this really okay? Professor Flitwick hesitated. Aiden, you're here. Dumbledore smiled when he saw Aiden appear. Hee, you actually still have the leisure to chat here, aren't you afraid that your beloved school will become a snake den? Aiden teased Dumbledore. Minerva is here to watch over us, nothing will happen. And you came here to ask for leave from Phileas, right? Dumbledore winked at Aiden. Aiden, do you really want to leave school at this time? That's an adult matter, why bother? Professor Flitwick avoided the question, obviously knowing what Aiden wanted to do. Professor, others have come in to tear down the door. We can't just stand there and watch. We have to let them know that our bad luck is not so easy to deal with. Aiden pointed to the school emblem on his clothes. Professor Flitwick understood and approved Aiden's leave application with a wave of his hand. Dumbledore took Aiden away from the school. So, where should we go first? Aiden looked at Dumbledore. Well, let's go visit an old friend first. Dumbledore pretended to be stupid. The Phoenix carried the two of them through space. After a flash of flame, the two appeared outside the Lestrange family's manor. Lestrange? You are really good at making up stories. Aiden raised his eyebrows. There's nothing I can do about it. It's really lucky for students to have connections. Dumbledore's old face had apparently reached the level of being invulnerable to swords and guns. Entering the manor, Edmund's father, Arfus Lestrange, the current head of the Lestrange family, came out. Aiden, long time no see. Arfus welcomed him warmly. Oh, and Professor Dumbledore, are you here for a home visit? Okay, uncle, given the relationship between our two families, there's no need to beat around the bush. What's going on with the suspension order? Aiden got straight to the point. Alas, it was Lucius. He came to our house and forced us to do something, saying that if we didn't agree to sign the principal's suspension order, he would curse our entire family. We were all afraid that he still had that person's belongings in his hands. Arfus sighed and told the truth. Huh? You believed his threat? Aiden felt a little strange. He is a Death Eater after all. What if? Besides. Overs was interrupted by Aiden. Besides, Dumbledore is a good man. He won't do anything to you, right? Good people should be pointed at with guns. Aiden's words were very hurtful, but they revealed the truth. What's a gun? Overs asked curiously. A Muggle metal wand, Dumbledore explained. Oh, that's really an image. I'm sorry Aiden, but for the sake of our family, we can't gamble. Overs lowered his head in shame. Uncle, it's useless to say this now. What if I can prove that Malfoy's threats are all bluffs? Aiden stared at Arfus, his heterochromatic dragon eyes were very oppressive. Then we will withdraw the suspension order immediately, but how are you going to prove it? Overs asked curiously. Aiden took out his short staff, pressed it against his temple, and slowly drew out a silvery white memory from his mind. High-end mind recording masters have their own ways to prove the truth, don't they? Aiden put the memories in his hand into a bottle and handed it to Arfus. Then Dumbledore cooperated with Aiden, and with a wave of his hand, a pensieve appeared on the table. Please, uncle. Aiden stretched out his hand and gestured. Arfus put the memory into the pensieve and was taken to Borgin and Burke's shop by the memory. Witnessed through Aiden's perspective as Lucius sold all of his dark magic items. There was a flash of white light, and Arfus returned to the Lestrange family's reception room. Okay, then I will withdraw your suspension. I'm very sorry, Professor Dumbledore. Overs apologized immediately. It's okay, then we won't bother you anymore. Dumbledore stood up. A phoenix flew in from the window, with a flash of flame, and the two disappeared from Arphus's sight. Then, Dumbledore took Aiden to visit all the school directors one by one. There is Dumbledore's testimony and the memory of Aiden, who is also a school director. The remaining 9 directors also withdrew their suspension orders against Dumbledore. When Dumbledore and Aiden appeared in Hogwarts again, he already had 10 letters of revocation in his hands. So, you can go back to being your headmaster now. Aiden looked at Dumbledore. Do you want to make a speech? Well, it feels good to be headmaster again. Dumbledore winked. Then do you want to go back and take charge? Aiden took out his wand and prepared to apparate to do his own thing. Dumbledore's voice came through the elongated space before apparating. No, I'm going to give it to Harry. Chapter 117. Nocturne Alley. After saying goodbye to Dumbledore, Aiden came to Nocturne Alley. In Nocturne Alley, all kinds of black-robed wizards were walking back and forth on the road, and some of them simply fell on the side of the road. A pure and beautiful fairy stepped in and instantly attracted the attention of all the wizards around. Greed, hatred, malice, and tyranny were spreading, and the wizards in Nocturne Alley quickly surrounded the goblins. Unfortunately, the rabbit they surrounded was not defenseless. On the contrary, the dragon in the center of the storm is ready to strike. Frenzy. The frenzy from Sequence 5, the Dream Walker, crashed into the mental bodies of the surrounding wizards. The malice they brought with them was detonated upon themselves through Aiden's hands. The dark wizards began to spread from the center to the surroundings, falling down in rows. Well, a great harvest! Aiden took out the box of the Traceless Extension spell and threw them in one by one. As Aiden picked up the person, he deliberately raised his nose and sniffed the air. This poor smell must be from the Bach family. Aiden raised her beautiful eyes and saw a wizard with greasy hair and tattered robes walking out from the shadows. Humph, are the Pruitt family going to join the ranks of dark wizards too? Your ancestors are crying, boy. Borgin and Burke showed a sarcastic expression. It just so happens that since you have shown up, why don't you join them? Aiden stepped hard on the ground, creating a shallow pit, and his figure instantly disappeared from the spot. Borgin and Burke only felt a flash before their eyes, and the next second, a pair of gorgeous heterochromatic eyes appeared in front of him. Borgin saw the man in front of him holding up his fist, and the protective alchemical items on his body unfolded. Several layers of shields appeared in front of him. Borgin originally wanted to take out his wand gracefully, but in the blink of an eye, click, a crisp shattering sound was heard, and all the protective props on Borgin's hands and neck exploded. A white fist was right in front of him. Borgin could not react except for his pupils shrinking. With a bang, a big bump appeared on Borgin's head as he fell to the ground. His last thought before he fell into a baby-like sleep was, he is so thin. Aiden looked at the unconscious Borgin, dusted off his clothes, walked over, picked up Borgin, and stuffed him into the box. After packing up all the dark wizards, Aiden picked up the box and said, Professor, when are you going to see it? Well, good kids shouldn't go out of school to fight. Along with the old voice, Dumbledore emerged from the void. We have to make some arrangements, otherwise we're just going to have to watch him organize his forces. Aiden raised his eyebrows. Well, the old man is just a headmaster anyway. He can't control the students who run out of the school. Dumbledore walked out with the licorice wand in his mouth. Aiden carried the box and walked into Borgin and Burke's alchemy shop. He waved his wand, and the shop door closed and the curtains of the windows were lowered. Then, Aiden replaced the short staff with a long staff. The crystal at the tip of the staff emitted light, and the space around the store began to twist and slowly expand. After setting up a huge and wide venue, Aiden poured out the wizards from the boxes. There were about 35 wizards in the venue. Some wizards with strong willpower have begun to wake up, but as the Dream Walker's powerful mind control ability intervened, all the wizards present were controlled. Ahem! Aiden cleared his throat. Follow me now. Follow me now. It doesn't belong to this world. Aiden recited the oath, and the wizards around him followed him. The atmosphere in the store was like a strange ceremony. I am an outsider who does not belong to this world, the great master of the Sea of Consciousness, the grey dragon that controls the mind. I voluntarily join the secret gathering, abide by the truth, and work tirelessly for the coexistence of wizards and ordinary people. Finally, implant an activation command into them. Aiden thought for a moment and said, when someone gives you a command, you need to help that person unconditionally. The command is Imagination Dragon. Dragon of Fantasy. Oh, it's voluntary. A consolation sent by the system. Humph, you're jealous. Aiden stretched out his fingers and scratched the gem hanging around his neck. Someone, don't forget who is handling your oath for you, and who is working diligently to help you transform the oath taker into an anchor. The system said arrogantly. Okay, it's all my fault. Aiden began to coax his system. By the way, are you really going to let these people maintain peace? The system asked. How is that possible? How can we expect a group of dark wizards to maintain peace? The only reason I took action in advance was to ensure that the power of the organization would be under my control after that guy was resurrected. Aiden waved his wand to break the mass hypnosis, and then he cleverly hid in the blind spot of consciousness. The awakened dark wizards seemed to be wondering why they fell in this place. Some of them recognized that this was Borgin's shop. Damn Borgin, are you going to be our enemy? Let us out now, or you'll be in trouble. Borgin also woke up from the crowd and hurried to open the door of the shop. After the wizards squeezed out of Borgin's shop, Borgin looked at the empty shop and always felt that he had missed something important. Outside Nocturne Alley, Aiden explored around and found that the Dark Wizards and Nocturne Alley had formed a strange symbiotic system. Nocturne Alley provides a shelter for Dark Wizards, and when the Dark Wizards encounter a crackdown in Nocturne Alley, they stand up to resist the Ministry of Magic's crackdown. As a result, more and more Dark Wizards settled here, and this place became a lawless area. Then, as a grey area beyond the reach of the law, it naturally attracted grey businesses to Nocturne Alley, which in turn revitalized the local economy. Maybe I can write a report on the social ecology of Nocturne Alley when I go back. Aiden thought, stroking his chin. And then add bricks and mortar to your path to becoming the Dark Lord, right? The system rolled its eyes, which Aiden could not see. After crossing the intersection of Nocturne Alley, Aiden returned to Diagon Alley. Although both places are alleys, the atmosphere is completely different. Walking into the Broken Axe, Aiden saw Hagrid drinking butterbeer, with two Aurors beside him. Aiden, why are you here? Hagrid was a little surprised. Come out and exonerate you. Aiden winked at Hagrid. Oh, you don't have to do this for me, Aiden. Hagrid's eyes looked a little downcast. Okay, everyone is out now, lower your head. Aiden took out his wand and gave the command. Should we give him a buff? The system complained. I'm doing business. Aiden rolled his eyes at the system in his mind. Then, Aiden pulled out a trace of memory from 50 years ago from Hagrid's head, which recorded that the animal Hagrid bred 50 years ago was an 8-eyed giant spider, and the fact that he knew nothing about Myrtle. After putting the retrieved memories into a glass bottle, Aiden left the Leaky Cauldron. Chapter 118, The Game of the Ministry of Magic. After leaving the Leaky Cauldron, Aiden arrived in Whitehall, London. Walking into the red telephone booth, picking up the phone, Aiden dialed. A pass fell out of the coin return slot, and then the phone booth began to sync. When they arrived at the main hall of the Ministry of Magic, a man was already waiting for Aiden inside. Haha, Dragon, you come to play with me again. The director of the Department of Mysteries smiled. Ah, why do you always call me Dragon? Aiden sighed. Can't you scream? The director acted cute, and Aiden could clearly sense the evil taste in his eyes beneath the hood. Whatever. I don't have time to chat with you today. I'm here to do some work. Aiden pushed him aside and walked forward. The strange thing was that these two people were so conspicuous, but the Ministry of Magic employees coming and going ignored them. Aiden stuffed his visitor card into the ticket machine and walked into the hall. There was a long queue at the visitor desk, and it seemed that it would not be Aiden's turn for a while. Hehe, you need me to lead the way. Visitor cards can only be reserved at the lobby. Although I don't know where you want to go, Long, but if you want to go through the procedures, you will have to wait until next week. Otherwise, why don't you join us? Then you can come and accompany us every day. The director gave Aiden a wink. No. I can go up by myself. Aiden rolled his eyes. Forget it, you disappointed dragon. I'll take you up there. Otherwise, it will be bad if you start a fight with them. Although these insects are incompetent, without them, the chaos will only spread. The director led Aiden to the elevator. He took out his card and swiped it on the elevator, which slowly moved upwards. How do you know where I'm going? Aiden asked curiously. Of course I know, because Long's friend was arrested and we are paying attention to it. The director explained. You guys. Aiden's scalp suddenly went numb. Oh, Long, you may not know this, but you have quite a few fans in the Department of Mysteries. The director's mouth curled up slightly, appearing even more mysterious. You guys are still chasing stars? Aiden felt a little unbelievable. No, I'm not a star, am I? But you are related to our work, and you are pretty. There are many young ladies in the company who are clamoring for me to catch the dragon back. Aiden wanted to ask more, but with a click, the elevator arrived at the second floor, the Department of Magical Law Enforcement. We're here. You go ahead. I should go back too. The director didn't give Aiden a chance to ask more questions and operated the elevator and left. On the second floor, a witch came up and stretched out her hand to shake Aiden's. Hello. Amelia Bones, head of the Department of Magical Law Enforcement. Hello, Chief Bones, I'm Aiden Pruitt. Aiden greeted. The witch looked at Aiden carefully and said, There's nothing special about you except that you look good. How did that old man from the Department of Mysteries bring you up here personally? It seems that this lady is indeed as decisive as the rumors say. Maybe we all have a common enemy? Aiden asked tentatively. Hi. Amelia Bones was a little confused. Forget it, don't waste time. Tell me the purpose of your visit. Ms. Bones went straight to the point. Ma'am, it's like this. I need to retrieve the trial files on the wizard Rupert Hagrid from 50 years ago. Aiden explained his purpose. Well, it's a concluded case. Tell me why I should get the case file for you. Ms. Bones looked up at Aiden. Madam, Article 2 of the Magic Code states that the task of the law is to ensure that criminal facts are accurately and promptly ascertained, that the law is correctly applied, that criminals are punished, and that innocent people are protected from criminal prosecution. Article 6, Criminal prosecutions by the Department of Magical Law Enforcement must be based on facts and in accordance with the law. All wizards shall be treated equally under the law, and no privileges shall be allowed before the law. Aiden read out the terms carefully, staring straight at Bones with his eyes that could penetrate into people's hearts. So, what you mean is that your friend was wrongly accused? Bones immediately understood what Aiden meant. May I show you his memory? Aiden then used his wand to summon the pensieve he had borrowed from Dumbledore. He took out a glass bottle and threw Hagrid's memories into it, and the pensieve began to play the facts of 50 years ago. After Director Bones finished reading Hagrid's memory, he fell into deep thought. This was indeed an oversight by the previous director. We convicted an innocent person and made him suffer injustice. Director Bones called his men and took Aiden into the archives room and began to look through the files from 50 years ago. Merlin, I can't appear anymore. They actually. Opening Hagrid's file, Ms. Bones let out a sharp cry. This lady who has devoted her entire life to fighting for the law was hit hard. Oh, what did those idiots from the previous term do? Torture, fabrication of evidence, tampering with testimony. These idiots didn't even clean up the alterations in the testimony. Looking at the childish files in front of her, Ms. Bones slumped in her chair as if someone had pulled out her spine. Let me give you a suggestion. The dragon at the side made a tempting voice, and the dragon active in the heart bared its fangs. Tell me. Ms. Bones, with her keen political sense, sensed the undercurrents behind this case. Firstly, the imprisonment of non-trial wizards was done by Minister Fudge, and the trial of the innocent wizard Hagrid was also an oversight by the previous Department of Law Enforcement. So, my advice is, ladies, don't do anything. Aiden's eyes curved into crescents, and his heterochromatic pupils sparkled like gemstones. Do nothing. Do you want me to sit back and watch innocent people suffer injustice? Ms. Bones stood up and issued a harsh accusation to Aiden. No, ma'am, we are still a long way from the end of Fudge's 7-year term, and it would be irrational to confront him head-on at this time. All we have to do is bide our time, and as far as the Department of Magical Law Enforcement is concerned, we can simply announce that a 50-year-old scroll has been lost. Aiden secretly switched pronouns in his speech, bringing the two closer together. The Dreamwalker's ability combined with words made Aiden's words unstoppable. What use can a single dossier serve? Ms. Bones wondered. This mysteriously lost file will be accidentally picked up by a professional, and then someone will analyze the Ministry of Magic's past actions from it. And somehow it was accidentally leaked to various media. The wizards' simple sense of justice will push them to start criticizing the Ministry of Magic. At this time, the righteous Department of Magical Law Enforcement responded to the demands of the wizards and stepped forward to investigate the case. Everything is so logical, isn't it? Aiden touched his fingers lightly and looked at Ms. Bones through the gaps in his palms. Hi, little brat, are you really a Ravenclaw? Ms. Bones seemed to agree with this plan. Maybe the old hat thinks I no longer need to draw nourishment from Slytherin. Aiden winked at Ms. Bones. Happy working together. Aiden extended his hand. It's a pleasure working with you. Ms. Bones shook Aiden's hand. Chapter 119. After leaving the Ministry of Magic, Aiden came to Nocturne Alley again, where he selected 2 wizards with slightly cleaner identities. After paying the fines from the Ministry of Magic for the 2, he appointed them as managers of Aiden's store, responsible for controlling the financial flows of the Pruitt family's business. While Aiden was running around, inside Hogwarts, Ron and Harry followed Hagrid's advice and followed the spider to the Forbidden Forest. That night, Harry and Ron came to Hagrid's hut with oil lamps. Outside the cabin, a group of spiders lined up and walked towards the Forbidden Forest. Oh my god, the spiders are heading towards the Forbidden Forest. Ron's voice was so sharp that it was hoarse. Have you forgotten what Hagrid told you to do? Follow the spider. Harry walked up with the oil lamp. Why the spider? Why didn't he say follow the butterfly? Ron grumbled, but he followed. In the Forbidden Forest, Harry turned around and suddenly saw a pair of vertical pupils staring at him. Be careful, Ron, something is coming. Harry pulled Ron and the two fell together. Ha ha ha, you two are really funny. A clear female voice came from the branches. A leopard cat with strange patterns on its body jumped down from the tree. Rada. Ron quickly recognized his brother's cat. No, how can you speak? Ron looked at Rada in horror. Oh, Ronnie, this is boring. We have lived together for so many years. If you don't speak, do you really not know how to talk? Rada's face showed a humane mockery. Okay, Ron, don't be afraid of her. She has helped me before. Harry comforted Ron. But, she is, Mom said. Ron was a little incoherent. Mrs. Molly said, don't believe in anything magical unless you know where its brain is. Rada helped Ron finish his words. Yes, that's it. Ron slapped his head. It really hurts me, Ronnie, we've been together for so long. Rada was still making jokes, but Harry no longer had the patience to continue. Okay, Ron, trust Aiden, he won't hurt you. And we still need to find clues to the Chamber of Secrets in the Forbidden Forest. Harry said. Yes, the secret chamber. Ron no longer paid attention to Rada. The two people and the cat began to walk towards the Forbidden Forest. Harry, I really don't like this. Can we go back? Ron's voice began to cry. Come quickly. Harry pulled Ron and followed the direction of the spider into a cave. There was a spider on the road that wanted to pounce on Rada, but was crushed to death by Rada's cat punch. Harry and Ron went deeper into the cave and entered the depths of the Forbidden Forest. They stopped in front of a deep pit. A huge creature suddenly shook. Who's there, Hagrid, is it you? A huge spider crawled out of the deep pit. We are Hagrid's friends. You are Aragog, right? Harry took 2 steps back at the huge spider in front of him. Yet, Hagrid has never brought anyone here before. There was a thick white cloud over each of Aragog's 8 eyes, evidently suffering from severe cataracts. Hagrid is in trouble. They say Hagrid opened the Chamber of Secrets. Harry looked at Aragog. Okay, there's no need to waste any more time. The reason you're dragging your feet is probably because you're waiting for your children to surround us. Rada stood up. The surrounding spiders had blocked the retreat of several people, and Rada easily read Aragog's undisguised malice. Oh, you don't want to know about the Chamber of Secrets. Aragog was still stalling for time. Humph. Rada launched a deterrent attack, and the surrounding spiders were forced back by the dragon's might. Aragog also fell into panic, and then Rada grabbed Harry's oil lamp and threw it in front of Aragog. The fire illuminated Aragog's 8 white eyes. Radha rushed forward nimbly, slapped Aragog on the head with his claws, and instantly read the knowledge he needed from its mind. Let's go, you two. Radha jumped back and quickly told Ron and Harry to evacuate. But we haven't yet. It was very courageous of Harry to think about intelligence in such a situation. Retreat quickly, I've got it. Radha rolled his eyes. Let's go. I don't think it's possible. My children won't hurt Hagrid because of my orders. But if there's fresh meat delivered to our door, I can't stop them. Aragog's deep voice sounded, and the frightened spiders resumed their movements and surrounded them. Can I be scared? Ron's fear overshadowed Harry's emotions. Harry took out his wand and stood back to back with Ron. Hurry up and use the magic that Aiden taught you. No, I'm too scared. I can't get into the state of casting a spell. Ron's voice was trembling. Oh, Ronnie, you are such a jerk. I'm going to complain to Aiden when I get home. Radha rolled her eyes and used confusion on the surrounding spiders. I wish I could go back, said Ron. No, there are too many spiders. The spider in the front row was knocked unconscious by Radha, and the spider in the back row quickly replaced him. I'll make a path for you, and then you run. Radha shouted to the two men. After saying that, the patterns on Radha's body began to glow faintly. If you look carefully, you can find the shape of runes in them. Meow. A long cat howl echoed in the woods, and the rune Kanaz, representing fire, was activated. The blue flames spread out from Radha to the surrounding areas, and the spiders fell into the flames and were quickly burned to ashes. The summer heat, coupled with the arson of a kitten, soon caused a fire to break out in the woods. Radha rushed out with Harry and Ron, and the flames automatically made way for them. Before leaving, Radha specially controlled the fire to ignite Aragog. Finally, he rushed to the outskirts of the Forbidden Forest with the two burdensome Radhas, and the fire was extinguished instantly without the support of Radha's magic. Only a few ruins were left in the habitat of the Acromantula. Ron escaped from the Forbidden Forest and kept vomiting while holding the big pumpkin planted by Hagrid. Follow the spider, you, I'm going to vomit in his most precious pumpkin patch. Radha gave him a contemptuous look. Harry didn't care about Ron anymore and asked Radha hurriedly. Okay, Lada, tell us what you know. The giant spider only thought about eating and reproduction, but when he escaped from the castle 50 years ago, he sensed the breath of the Acromantula's natural enemy, the basilisk. Also, 50 years ago, a girl lost her life under the breath of his natural enemy. Radha did not make it difficult for Harry to tell him the truth. So that's how it is. I understand now. The monster in the Chamber of Secrets is the basilisk. Harry instantly understood the whole story. Chapter 120. In action. Harry and Ron returned to the castle and went to visit Hermione again. Sitting on the edge of the bed, Harry looked at the petrified Hermione. I really hope you get better, Hermione. We already know about the monster in the Chamber of Secrets. We will avenge you, Hermione. Harry brushed Hermione's cold hand and suddenly found a piece of paper in her hand. Taking the note from Hermione's hand, Harry unfolded it, and Ron also saw the ball of paper in Harry's hand. What's that? Ron frowned. That's probably why Hermione was attacked. She also discovered the monster in the Chamber of Secrets. Harry handed the torn page to Ron, which contained the relevant information about the basilisk. Of the many terrible monsters that roam our land, the most dangerous is the basilisk, which lives for hundreds of years and dies to anyone who looks into its eyes. Spiders will flee, that's Ron. Harry read the message on the ball of paper as he walked down the corridor. This is the same news as Radha's, but if what they said is right, then why didn't anyone die? Ron asked, puzzled. Reflection, I see. No one looked directly into the basilisk's eyes, so they were all just petrified. Harry realized. But how does such a big green snake get around the castle unnoticed? Said Ron. Hermione left us a message, it's the conduit. Harry held up the page Hermione had torn out again, with the word pipe written on the blank back. Do you still remember the memory that Radha read from Aragog? Since the basilisk is real, then the memory is correct. The girl, Myrtle, died under the breath of her natural enemy 50 years ago. So, the entrance to the Chamber of Secrets should be in the bathroom on the second floor. Ron also deduced what Harry wanted to say. Yes, we will go find Professor McGonagall now. This time, the two men learned their lesson and did not rush to the bathroom rashly. Just as the two were on their way to Professor McGonagall's office, a voice suddenly spread throughout the campus. All students please return to the common room, and all professors please gather in the corridor on the second floor. After hearing this, Harry and Ron hurried to the second floor. All the professors of Hogwarts came over, except Gilderoy Lockhart. You see, the heir of Slytherin has left another message. Our fears are about to come true. 2 students have been captured and taken into the Chamber of Secrets. Professor McGonagall looked at everyone sadly, she seemed really sad. All students must be sent home immediately. I'm afraid Hogwarts will be closed permanently. At this time, Lockhart walked over with elegant steps. I'm sorry, I overslept. I hope I didn't miss anything. Lockhart was sweating profusely, and the end of his robe seemed to be wet. A student has been captured by a monster. Your chance to show off has finally come. Snape threw the question to Lockhart and smiled, which was a rare moment. Performance. Lockhart stuttered. Didn't you say last night that you always knew where the entrance to the secret room was? It was really hard for Teacher Si to suppress the curled corners of his mouth. Next to the professors, an old bee and a naughty dragon hid in the blind spot of consciousness. Well, your ability is really useful. Dumbledore said to Aiden. Finally, Lockhart, I have been waiting for this day for who knows how long. Listening to the teacher constantly complimenting Lockhart, Aiden felt secretly happy. So, why did you hire this guy? Apart from his perfect oblivion spell, what else can he do? He doesn't even teach you the oblivion spell. Curiosity flashed in Aiden's eyes. Perhaps he can let the students of Hogwarts know what kind of people should not be and what kind of paths should not be taken. This is also a kind of education, isn't it? Dumbledore winked at Aiden. Humph. Ignoring Dumbledore, Aiden continued eating the melon. Well, I'll trouble you to deal with the monster by yourself. After all, we have never seen you show your skills before. A rare smile appeared on Professor McGonagall's serious face. Okay, no problem, let me go back to my office and make some preparations. Lockhart showed his shining teeth, as if to make everyone forget him, and turned and left. After watching Lockhart leave, Madame Pomfrey turned around and asked, Minerva, who was taken away? Ginny Weasley and Ernie Macmillan, said Professor McGonagall. Harry, who was eavesdropping at the corner, opened his mouth wide, and Ron's heart sank. Dumbledore, who was hiding in the blind spot of his consciousness, glanced at Aiden and asked. Your sister has been taken away, aren't you worried? Hey, what you said is true. Didn't we go to the Chamber of Secrets together? And we have the basilisk in our hands. How can he deal with the little wizard with just a diary? And it wasn't my sister who got hurt in the end. Aiden said stubbornly, then turned and left. But in Dumbledore's eyes, he saw him rushing towards the abandoned women's bathroom. Harry and Ron hurried to Lockhart's office. Lockhart may be useless, but he is preparing to enter the Chamber of Secrets. We need to pass the information to him. The two walked through the classroom and into Lockhart's office. Professor, we have news for you. Harry looked up and saw Lockhart packing his luggage. Hearing the noise, Lockhart closed the box. Several people looked at each other, and the scene was very awkward for a while. Are you going to leave here? Harry raised his left eyebrow. Yes, I have something urgent to do. I have to leave immediately. Lockhart pointed his head to the left. What about my sister? Ronnie demanded. Well, no one understands the grief of this matter more than I do. Lockhart quickened his pace in packing. You are our defense against the dark arts, Professor, you can't run away. Ron walked to the left side of the desk to block Lockhart. I have to tell you, no one told me when I took this job. Lockhart walked to the right. Harry stepped in, you want to escape. Your books portray you as so great. Lockhart pushed Harry away. Books can be misleading. You wrote about them. Harry waved his hand. My dear children, please use your common sense. If my fans don't believe that I wrote my books, how can they sell well? Lockhart put down his luggage and spread his hands. Merlin, you have to know something, Ron said in a panic. By the way, I use the Oblivion charm very well. Now that you bring it up, I must make you forget about it. Lockhart drew his wand and pointed it at Ron and Harry. Forget. While Lockhart was concentrating on chanting the spell, Harry flicked his wand and said, Expelliarmus. Lockhart's wand was knocked away in an instant, and Ron took out his broken wand and pressed it against Lockhart's neck. Chapter 121. Slytherin's Chamber of Secrets. Harry and Ron took Lockhart to the women's bathroom on the second floor. Through a conversation with Myrtle, Harry finally locked the entrance to the Chamber of Secrets. Say something, Harry, in Parseltongue, said Ron. Harry stared at the snake carving on the tap for a long time. I can't, Ron. You have to speak Parseltongue to a snake. This carving looks too fake. Harry said dejectedly. Snap, a crisp snap of fingers sounded, and Harry suddenly felt that he could speak Parseltongue to the carving. But this strange snapping sound didn't seem to attract anyone's attention. Hiss, hiss, hiss. Harry used Parseltongue to say open. Then, the wash basin in the bathroom folded automatically, revealing a huge passage. Lockhart stuck his head out to take a look at the bottomless passage and let out a breath. Well done, Harry. Haha, that makes me feel relieved. I shouldn't be needed here anymore. Lockhart turned around and tried to escape, but was held back by Ron and Harry who were standing behind him. You are really needed here. The two men wrestled with Lockhart and managed to carry him back to the entrance of the passage. Lockhart held onto the water pools on both sides and refused to go down. Ron stepped forward and kicked Lockhart, sending him into the passage. After waiting for a long time, Lockhart's voice came up from underground. It's really dirty down here. Hearing Lockhart's voice, Ron and Harry looked at each other and jumped down as well. When everyone entered the secret room, two figures, one old and one young, emerged from the air. By the way, Aiden, have you ever considered returning to Hogwarts to teach in the future? Your ability is perfect for catching little wizards who wander around at night. Dumbledore praised. Look who this is, it's our respected Professor Dumbledore. Oh no, I should call you the headmaster now. Myrtle flew over and circled around Dumbledore. Myrtle, I'm sorry about what happened to you. I didn't expect Tom to dare to do that at such a young age. Guilt appeared in Dumbledore's eyes. Okay, let's not talk about that bad guy anymore. Everyone knows that you are most wary of him, but he is so charming that everyone is fascinated by him. Myrtle clasped her hands together, her eyes blurry, then screamed and crawled into the toilet. The past is too hard to recall, Professor. Aiden raised his left eyebrow slightly. Every family has a few unlucky students. Dumbledore winked at Aiden. Aiden. Ha, your line. The system also popped up a bubble. The two stopped chatting and walked into the passage of the secret room like a grandfather and grandson out shopping. But what's interesting is that there seemed to be invisible steps in the air under their feet, and the two of them just stepped on the steps and disappeared into the darkness. In the passage of the Chamber of Secrets, Harry and Ron were stunned to see the skeletons of small animals all over the ground. Harry looked up at the two of them and said, "Remember, close your eyes if you hear any noise." With that, Harry took the lead and walked forward. Ron pointed his wand at Lockhart and tilted his head towards Harry. Lockhart had no choice but to follow. After passing through a rugged cave, the three came to a round iron door with 7 snakes winding around it to lock it. Hiss, open, dot. Harry spoke snake language to the iron gate with ease, and a snake crawled out from the door frame and circled around the iron gate. The snake on the door lock twisted and shrank back, and with the sound of the spring contracting, the iron door slowly opened. Slytherin's Chamber of Secrets appeared before the three of them. The interior of the chamber was luxuriously decorated, but it looked a bit desolate due to long-term closure and lack of maintenance. There are snake head sculptures scattered around, and at the end of the Chamber of Secrets, there is a sculpture of Slytherin himself. His long beard hung down to the hem of his robe, and his old face looked like a monkey. It's really a sculpture of the head of Slytherin himself. Aiden, hiding in the blind spot of his consciousness, asked Dumbledore a soul-searching question. Dumbledore, is it better to maintain the image of the old dean in the students' minds, or to recognize the old dean's own aesthetic taste? At the end of the Chamber of Secrets, Ginny and Ernie fell to the ground. Harry and Ron rushed over without caring about anything else. Oh, Ginny! Ginny, you can't die, wake up soon, please. Harry rushed forward and patted Ginny. Ron also looked at his sister nervously, but Ernie beside him paid no attention. She's fine. A young student stepped out from the shadows, wearing Slytherin robes. Tom? Tom Riddle, why are you here? Harry was a little curious. He is the owner of the diary you mentioned? But he lived 50 years ago. Ron was a little incredulous. She's fine. Let me ask you, I've already caught Aiden Pruitt's sister, why didn't he come? As Tom spoke, he quickly approached the group. What does this have to do with him, Aiden? Ron was a little confused. Maybe it's because that guy has been kicked out of school. Lockhart smiled, suddenly pulled out his wand from his sleeve, and cast a stunning spell at Ron, who was caught off guard and fainted. You guys. Harry was a little confused. Ha, I told you, I have to leave for something. You should just let me go. Why are there so many things? Lockhart said with a grin. Tom, what's going on? Are you a ghost? Harry demanded. What a pity that Aiden Pruitt didn't show up. He has such a rare and perfect body. Tom smiled evilly. Forget it. I've already prepared 2 young bodies for you. Why don't you just use their vitality to reconstruct your own body? Lockhart said. What do you know, you idiot, that's a dragon man, a dragon man. Tom roared at Lockhart. Dumbledore, who was watching the show from the snake-head statue nearby, turned around and said to Aiden, it seems that your body is very attractive to dark wizards. Aiden, such a good show can't shut you up. In the venue, Tom, who thought he had won, began to do what a villain does, chatting with the protagonist at the most critical moment. Well, it's worth the trip to have the famous savior come. Tom walked over to Harry. It's no wonder I showed you the memory of the foolish Hagrid. You really trust me so much that you came here easily with so many sacrifices. You, Dumbledore won't let you succeed. Harry stared at Tom with his green eyes. He has been spying on me since I started school. If I hadn't let stupid Hagrid take the blame for me, I would probably have been kicked out of Hogwarts early. Tom took Harry's wand and waved a few wand flowers. Chapter 122, Legendary Artist, Gilderoy Lockhart. But thanks to the great dedication of my new friends, my plan was able to be realized smoothly. Tom continued as Lockhart stepped forward and bowed. Aren't you the Professor of Defense against the Dark Arts at the Academy? Dumbledore really misjudged you. Harry pointed at Lockhart. Aiden glanced at Dumbledore in the dark and found that he had already turned his back. What does this have to do with me, kid? I just gave the diary to someone who needs it. Ernie enjoyed it. Tom was a good mentor and friend, he helped Ernie improve his strength, but at a small cost. Lockhart's smile was very dazzling, no longer as glorious and majestic as he was in the poster. Who doesn't desire power and fame? Harry, you have everything since you were born, and everyone loves you. As for me, I can only struggle on the streets every day and barely make ends meet. From the day you appeared in the newspaper, I swore that I must have a greater fame than you, so that power and wealth will fall into my hands. Lockhart waved his hands, looking a little crazy. You liar, Harry shouted. And you, Tom, who the hell are you? Me. Tom bent down and looked at Harry, lifting his hair with his wand, revealing the lightning-shaped scar. Then, Tom used his wand to write in the air, Tom M. Riddle. With a wave of the magic wand, the fonts in the air reorganized and arranged into a line of small words. The letters in the air clearly read I am Voldemort. You are the heir of Slytherin, you are Voldemort. Harry's voice was a little weak. Of course, you don't think I still have my filthy muggle father's last name. Tom looked pleased with himself. So I chose a new name for myself, held a huge ceremony to build consensus, and completely erased my shameful past, which also made me the greatest wizard in the world. Albus Dumbledore is the greatest wizard in the world. Harry was angered by Tom's words and went up to confront Tom. The poor old man who was driven away by me with a piece of memory. Tom looked at Harry mockingly. No, he won't leave because we still have people loyal to him. Harry took another step forward, almost bumping into Tom. Okay, I'm not in the mood to chat with you anymore, kill him, Lockhart. Tom ordered angrily. At your service, my lord. Lockhart took out his wand and prepared to help the unarmed Harry restore the factory settings. Forget everything. Lockhart cast a forgetfulness spell on Harry, and suddenly a figure appeared behind Harry. A hand with a ring stretched out from Harry's side, and multiple hexagonal crystal barriers blocked the two of them. The Oblivion spell hit the barrier hard and was bounced back directly. The spell flew back to its master along the same trajectory. No, Lockhart was hit by his own Oblivion spell and fell to the ground. Ron! Harry said in surprise when he saw the person behind him. Always. Ron smiled back at Harry. A guy who fails to succeed but fails to succeed. Tom watched Lockhart lose and drew his wand, ready to fight himself. That's enough, let me meet you. Tom pointed Harry's wand at Ron. Torn apart. A bolt of magic lightning rushed towards the two of them, and a barrier appeared in front of Ron, blocking the incoming spell. We have to fight quickly, using this kind of magic consumes too much energy. Ron said while protecting Harry. What should I do? He has my wand, asked Harry. I'll create an opportunity for you, and you go up and grab the wand back. Ron gave the battle plan. Okay. Harry nodded. After the discussion, the two men fled separately. Ron raised his hand and cast an attack magic. The white beam of light was wrapped in black magic. When Tom saw the incoming beam of light, he didn't dare to resist it and chose to dodge it. The beam of light collided with the ground, causing a violent explosion and raising a huge cloud of dust. Voldemort's vision was obscured by the smoke and dust, and for a moment he lost the location of Harry and Ron. Seeing this scene, Tom also understood the tactics of the two men, so he waved his wand. It's full of smoke. Large patches of white fog began to emerge from the secret room, and everyone lost their vision for a moment. Ron and Harry didn't dare to make a sound for fear of exposing their position, so they had to play a game of tag in the smoke. You're still too young. Aiden, who was hiding in the blind spot of his consciousness, sighed. That's very good. You have trained Mr. Weasley so well. Can you send Harry over for special training during the holidays this year? Asked Dumbledore. Doesn't Harry have to go back to the Dursleys to maintain the protective spell on him? Aiden asked puzzled. How do you know? Never mind. He doesn't need to live there for a long time to maintain the spell. The key is to make his family still accept him. Dumbledore explained. You can write a letter to communicate with Aunt Molly yourself. As long as she agrees, it's fine. I have plenty of time anyway. Aiden spread his hands. Inside the fog, Ron's intuition, which he had developed after a whole summer of special training, finally came into play, and he decided to use his limited physical strength to cast the next spell. He stretched out his right hand and gathered magic power towards the left front. Zoltraok! A huge beam of light roared through the fog, and Tom was right in its path. Tom's pupils reflected the incoming beam of light, and he only had time to raise his wand and cast one last spell. Armor Protection. The attack magic and the shield charm collided, and the explosion echoed in the Chamber of Secrets. Fortunately, Mr. Slytherin's selection of materials for the Chamber of Secrets was careful enough, and no huge landslide was caused. Powerful attack magic dispelled the fog, the smoke and dust dissipated, Tom was gone, and only a straight track was left on the ground, which was plowed by Ron's attack magic. Cool Harry limped over. Lockhart also woke up and laughed foolishly. Hey, 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 who are you? Ron lifted up the rebel on the ground and knocked Lockhart to the ground with it. Aiden didn't lie to me. He said that if we lose our vision, we can just bomb hard and the problem will be solved. Ron scratched his nose modestly, but his red ears showed his uneasy heart. Come on, let's go and take Ginny back. Ron waved his hand and walked up. Harry hurried to catch up with Ron. When they reached the end of the Chamber of Secrets again, Harry quickened his pace and helped Ginny up. Hey, this is my sister. Ron shook his head and could only turn and walk towards Ernie. This guy spreads rumors about you in school every day, and he didn't expect us to rescue him. Ron grumbled in dissatisfaction and held out his hand to help Ernie up. Chapter 123, Defection. Collapsed. Just as Ron was about to help Ernie up, Ernie took out his wand and cast a stunning spell at Ron, then he quickly took off the ring on Ron's hand and threw it away. The ring drew a graceful arc in the air and hit a peeping dragon. The dragon with beautiful heterochromatic eyes. Ernie stood up and pointed his wand at Harry, who picked up his wand and confronted him. You didn't expect that, Potter. Ernie smiled wickedly. You are Tom. Harry also understood immediately. I didn't expect that Weasley was so powerful that he could withstand a stunning spell and still be alive and kicking. But no one can save you now, Harry Potter. Ernie pointed his wand at Harry and slowly backed away, and as he approached the Slytherin statue, he opened his mouth and spoke in Parseltongue. Shh, speak to me, Slytherin, the greatest of the four. As the password was entered, the Slytherin sculpture opened its mouth and a giant snake crawled out of Slytherin's mouth. SSSSSSSS, kill him, Ernie ordered the basilisk. Your Parseltongue can't save you, Pot, it only obeys my orders. Ernie boasted to Harry. The basilisk crawled towards Harry. Harry clenched his wand and cast several stunning spells, but without exception, none of them had any effect. Because the scene was too tense, neither side noticed that the basilisk that crawled out actually had its eyes closed. A long phoenix cry was heard, and Fox flew over with a sorting hat. He threw the hat down, and Harry reached out to catch it. Ha, is this the help Dumbledore gives you, a lousy bird and a lousy hat? Ernie laughed. The grandfather and grandson, who were sitting on the stone snake sculpture, had already started sharing the candy. Please take it easy and don't damage the school's precious relics. Aiden said meaningfully. No, they are all very solid. Dumbledore smiled and grabbed a multi-flavored bean and put it in his mouth. Chili flavor. Harry picked up the hat and put it on his head, when suddenly the hilt of a sword hit him on the head, almost knocking him unconscious. The sword slipped out of the hat, and Harry picked up the sword and confronted the basilisk. The basilisk opened its mouth to attack Harry, but Harry waved his sword to drive the basilisk away, preventing it from biting him for a while. Seeing his pets entangled in a fight, Ernie flicked his wand and cast a disarming spell, Expelliarmus. Harry looked at the disarming spell flying towards him, pulled out his sword and cut the spell directly. What? This is impossible. It's just a broken sword. Ernie was dumbfounded, unable to believe that the Gryffindor relic, which he considered to be trash, actually possessed such powerful power. Harry also led the basilisk in a circle, approaching Ernie in a circuitous way. Give it to me, Pot, if you hand it over to me, I will let the girl go, how about that? Ernie pulled Ginny to her feet and pressed his wand to her temple. But where he couldn't see, a pair of dark dragon eyes as deep as a pool of water were already looking at him. Don't even think about it. Even if I give you the sword, you won't let us go. Harry was very sober. He knew that Ernie was deceiving him. Oh, that's a shame. Come on Harry, say goodbye to your little fangirl. There was a red light flickering at the tip of Ernie's wand, and the dragon hiding in the dark suddenly felt a huge force urging him on. Aiden raised his head, his sight penetrating the sea of collective subconsciousness. A towering castle slowly emerged from the sea, and sea water slid down from the top of the castle's tower. It seems that the attacks on the little wizards in recent days have made the castle furious. Just when Ernie was about to cast a spell, the basilisk chasing Harry suddenly twitched its tail and blew Ernie away. Ernie smashed through the stalagmites on the ground and was embedded in the wall on the left. What? Harry was surprised by the basilisk's counterattack. The basilisk carefully picked up Ginny and placed her next to Harry. You betrayed me. Ernie climbed up from the rubble and looked at the basilisk fiercely. How is this possible? The basilisk turned around and opened its eyes. Its pupils were no longer the previous yellow-green color, but a pair of strange heterochromatic pupils. Seeing this familiar pair of eyes, Harry was stunned at first, and then he could no longer conceal the joy on his face. Aiden Pruitt. Ernie looked at the basilisk and read out a name. I thought our second meeting would be in a relatively clean place. The basilisk did not open its mouth, but the clear voice of the boy echoed all around. Do you think you can win by controlling the basilisk? Ernie glared at the basilisk. Humph, I am on this boy now. If you want to deal with me, you need to kill this boy first. I know you can't do it. The so-called good people are hypocrites like you who pretend to be good people. I said. In a few minutes, this boy will be dead, and I will be no more than a memory. Voldemort will return, and you will be left to watch as I rise from this child's bones. Ernie's wild laughter echoed in the secret room, and he seemed certain of his victory. Ernie, wake up! Harry tried to wake Ernie, but it was in vain. Just then, Harry stepped on something and picked it up. It was a diary. Harry looked at the diary, then at the long sword in his hand that was stained with basilisk venom, and smiled at Ernie. No, Ernie rushed over immediately and fired a disarming charm at Harry. The spell was blocked by a thick snake body, and Ernie's disarming charm hit it like a tickle. Blocked by the snake's body, the short distance of a few meters became an insurmountable chasm that Ernie could not cross. Harry raised the sword and pierced the diary, and black blood flowed out of the diary. A white light began to emerge from Ernie's body, and black mist rose from him. No, no, damn it, I curse you, Harry Potter, I curse you, Aiden Pruitt. Ernie's last voice echoed in the Chamber of Secrets. Soon he passed out. Harry weakly helped Ginny lean against the basilisk. After the fight, his robes were torn and his face had several scratches. Ginny also woke up from her coma. Where am I? Ginny. A tired voice caught Ginny's attention. Harry, go tell the professor, it's Ernie, he's the heir of Slytherin. Ginny's memory was still stuck in the time before she was attacked. I already know, it's over. Harry lowered his head tiredly. Ginny looked around and saw the giant basilisk and the people unconscious around it. Harry, you're hurt. Ginny looked at Harry worriedly. Ginny, listen to me carefully. Harry was interrupted just as he was about to speak. The long cry of the phoenix was heard again, and Fox flew to Harry's side. Fox, you're here, great, go find the professor, said Harry. Fox did not obey Harry's command, he grabbed Harry and Ginny and flew away. After the two left, Aiden and Dumbledore also came out. No, Professor, you asked Fox to send them away. What should we do with these people? Aiden was speechless. The hero and his beauty must be given some time alone, and we are here to watch them, said the shameless old man Dumbledore. Huh? What's wrong with me? Ron also woke up and saw Aiden holding a long staff, which emitted soft waves that enveloped him. Apart from your dear brother, who else would be so pitiful as to be here to treat brother Ronnie's injuries? Aiden pinched it. Oh, Aiden, where's Ginny? Ron was still a little confused. The professor has sent him away. We will send him to the medical wing. Remember to go to the principal's office after the visit. You are in a terrible situation now. Aiden raised an eyebrow at Ron, who paled when he remembered what he had done. Aiden, are you done reminiscing about the past? Can you come over and help? Dumbledore's voice came from behind. Alas, I am destined to be a hard worker. Aiden sighed and took out his staff to help Dumbledore transfer the wounded. Chapter 124. After sending a group of people to the medical wing, Aiden walked out of the room rubbing his shoulders. Rolling around in the sewer with these guys made the clean-loving Long feel uncomfortable all over. So he decided to take a good wash, hid in the blind spot of his consciousness, and invaded the bathroom reserved for prefects without hesitation. Seeing that there was no one in the bathroom, Aiden walked in with confidence. The bathroom interior is gorgeously decorated in a classic magical style. In the middle of the bathroom there is a huge circular bathtub with clear water, surrounded by exquisite mosaic tiles, and gorgeous mirrors and various magical items hanging on the walls. The water for the baths can be filled through a variety of magic taps that provide water of different temperatures and effects. Aiden waved his wand and the faucet sprayed out a lot of foam. After simply rinsing his body, Aiden walked into the round bathtub. Wow! The warm water flow drove away Aiden's fatigue brought by days of running around. The two pearly white dragon horns appeared even more translucent under the light from the bathroom. But this peace and quiet was soon destroyed when a silver phoenix emerged from the foam, a phoenix head. Aiden, I'm sorry to disturb you while you're taking a shower, but please come to the principal's office quickly. An old friend may be coming. Phoenix opened his mouth, but what came out was Dumbledore's voice. Aiden. The happy time of taking a bath was gone with a bang. Aiden, who was full of resentment, waved his hand casually, and the water droplets on his body gathered into a waterman. He came to the edge of the bathtub and somersaulted into the bathtub. Aiden casually put on his robe and walked out of the prefect's bathroom. The long hair that had just been washed was as soft and shiny as silk under the sunlight, and the two dragon horns on the head were still sharp. A breeze blew by, and the scent of aromatherapy filled the air. What a beautiful scene, but it's a pity that the people around turned a blind eye to it. He walked through the spiral staircase, waved at the gatekeeper of the principal's office, and opened the door roughly. Aiden entered the headmaster's office and heard a Gryffindor headmaster favoring his two favorite students. In the past few hours, the two of you have violated dozens of school rules, which is enough to get you expelled from the school. Dumbledore pretended to be serious. Yes, sir. Harry and Ron lowered their heads and prepared to be scolded. However, what you have done is enough to earn you the Hogwarts Special Contribution Award. Dumbledore looked at the two of them over his half-moon glasses, with a smile in his eyes. At the same time, because of this contribution award, you can get a 200-point reward, each person, each. Dumbledore stood up and handed Ron a letter. Well, Mr. Weasley, please send this letter to the Ministry of Magic. It's time for our gamekeeper to return. Ron took the letter and walked out. When Ron stepped onto the stairs, Aiden entered the principal's office and exited the invisible state, and Ron saw him clearly. Ron's eyes widened when he saw his brother wandering around Hogwarts with his dragon horns exposed. Aiden, where's your hat? You didn't just walk all the way here, did you? Ron said anxiously. It's okay, they can't see it. Aiden said calmly, taking out a letter and handing it to Ron. You are going to send a letter to the Ministry of Magic, right? By the way, please help me send this letter. The address is the Lestrange family. Ron took the letter and asked, when did you become so familiar with them? Stop talking nonsense and go quickly. The sooner you send the letter, the sooner Hagrid will be released. Aiden said. After hearing what Aiden said, Ron didn't care about anything else and ran out quickly. In the office, Dumbledore has started a new round of heart-to-heart talk with Harry. First, I want to thank you, Harry, you must have shown absolute loyalty to me to have summoned Fawkes to your side. Second, you seem to be troubled by something, do you need my help? Dumbledore walked up to Harry. Professor, I noticed that I seem to have some similar traits with Tom Riddle. Harry expressed his confusion. You are all Parcel Tongues, right? I guess he gave you some of his power when he gave you this scar. Dumbledore narrowed his eyes and turned toward his desk, not daring to look Harry in the eye. That's not what he meant, but it's true. So the Sorting Hat was right? I should be in Slytherin. Harry looked at Dumbledore, who was sitting down. That's right, Harry, you do possess some of the characteristics that Voldemort is proud of. You are resourceful, determined, and brave, but you also don't follow the rules very well. But why did the Sorting Hat put you in Gryffindor? Dumbledore pointed to the Sorting Hat. Because that's what I asked. Harry thought for a moment and replied. That's right, Harry, this is the difference between you and Voldemort. It is not our ability that determines who we become, but our choice. Dumbledore said, handing the sword to Harry. If you still have doubts, look at this sword. Only a true Gryffindor can draw this sword. Dumbledore blinked his left eye at Harry. On the sofa, the lazy Long stretched out, indicating that he was about to fall asleep while listening. Professor, I want to remind you that your old friend is about to arrive. Aiden suddenly spoke. His voice instantly made the two men who were in a good mood focus their attention on him. Aiden, when did you get here, and who is your old friend? Also, your character. Harry looked at Aiden curled up on the sofa, hesitant to speak. Alas, looking at his unreliable student, Dumbledore let out a long sigh. Aiden, I want to apologize to you. I shouldn't have disturbed you when you were taking a shower. Please forgive me, an exhausted old man. The guys who are coming next will be difficult to deal with. The Dumbledore was experienced and apologized to Aiden, blocking his room for outburst. Humph. Long on the sofa turned his head away proudly. Harry was full of questions, so he had to turn to Dumbledore for knowledge. Dumbledore, unable to resist Harry's gaze, answered Harry's question. It's like this. Actually, I am still suspended. Although I have obtained the revocation order from 10 school directors, I still have to face the questioning from the last director. Ah, the old man is really hard-working. It would be great if there was a considerate student who happens to be a school director and is also strong enough to help him deal with it. Dumbledore turned his eyes to Aiden. Long, who was humming on the sofa, ignored him and just raised one hand and rubbed it in the air. I will teach you the Patronus charm, and my own improvements. Dumbledore threw out the bait. It is our unshirkable responsibility as good students to help the principal solve his problems. The dragon on the sofa immediately took the bait, looking righteous. Harry in the office had never seen such a scene before. He was so shocked by the adult world that he was speechless. Chapter 125. Deterrence. While Harry was still in shock, a figure violently kicked open the door of the headmaster's office, and the background music in the office suddenly changed. "Oh, I found that the stone statue guarding the gate below was broken, so I came in directly. I hope it won't be rude." The person who came was Lucius Malfoy. Behind Lucius followed a short guy with drooping ears. The principal looked at the sofa with sharp eyes, but the dragon who was curled up on the sofa and humming disappeared. Lucius also followed Dumbledore's gaze, but seeing nothing, he gave a disdainful smile. "Dobby, so this is your master. You are a house elf serving the Malfoy family." Harry pretended to be very surprised. Dobby gurgled in his throat. Lucius gave him a vicious look and said, "I'll settle with you later." Lucius drew his cane and walked to the desk. "Get out of my way, Potter." "So, you are back after all." Lucius looked at Dumbledore with a proud look. "I remember your suspension order seems to have not ended yet." When the other school directors learned that Ginny Weasley had also been captured in the Chamber of Secrets, they immediately sent letters urging me to return to school. Dumbledore sat firmly in the position of headmaster and answered calmly. "Ridiculous." Lucius turned his head away. "Interestingly, Lucius, when I visited those school directors, they told me that if they did not agree to suspend me, you would curse their families." Dumbledore's sharp eyes passed over his half-moon eyes. "How dare you?" Lucius narrowed his eyes. "What are you talking about?" Dumbledore leaned his head forward and pretended to be old and dazed. "For me, the only constant concern is the interests of this school and the safety of the students." "And the murderer has been caught, hasn't he?" Lucius glanced at Harry. "Yes, it was Voldemort. He was influencing the students in the school through this diary, and it was Mr. Potter who stopped him. I have submitted the relevant memories to the Wizengamot, and I believe they will make a fair judgment." Dumbledore smiled and felt that he had learned legilimency correctly. "Oh, really? I didn't expect it to be Mr. Potter again. Why not let him be the headmaster?" "Old Dumbledore, I doubt whether you are still capable of protecting this school." Lucius narrowed his eyes and continued his attack. "Don't worry about that. We already have younger guardians." Dumbledore turned his head, his eyes passing through Lucius and onto the sofa beside him. Lucius smiled disdainfully again, thinking that Dumbledore was having an senile attack, and followed Dumbledore's gaze towards the sofa. But this time, the sofa was not empty. A barefoot handsome boy arched the back of the sofa and adjusted himself into a comfortable sleeping position. The sharp dragon horn on his head was like an arrow, piercing straight into Lucius' heart. Lucius, who had inherited the tradition, also recovered the teachings of his ancestors from the memories that had been buried in his mind for many years. "The Dragon Man of Pruitt," Lucius muttered to himself. He stared at the sharp horns for a long time, unable to reorganize his words. After a long while, Lucius mustered up his courage and said, "Oh, let's wait and see." Lucius turned his head, kicked Dobby, didn't dare to look at the person on the sofa again, and hurried out. "Professor Dumbledore, can you give me this diary?" Harry looked at Dobby, who was hurt, and walked up to him. "Of course." Dumbledore spread his hands, and Harry grabbed the notebook and left. As he passed Aiden, he said, "Perhaps we no longer need news about Malfoy, so we need a reason for Dobby to leave the Malfoy family in a legitimate way." "Of course." Aiden made a gesture to Harry to go ahead. Harry grinned and ran after him. "He's a nice boy." Dumbledore looked at Aiden. Yes, it combines the best qualities of the two most influential people in your life." Aiden rolled his eyes. He put on his shoes, jumped off the sofa, and walked out. Outside the door, in the corridor on the 8th floor, Harry quickly caught up with Lucius and handed him the diary. "Mr. Malfoy, I think you left your diary behind." "Diary? This is not mine." Lucius' acting skills are superb. "But didn't you give it to Lockhart yourself in Diagon Alley?" said Harry. Lucius bent down, stared at Harry, and said word by word, "Well, maybe you need to collect evidence carefully." Then he threw the diary in his hand to Dobby and turned away. "Open it," Harry whispered to Dobby, who took the diary. Dobby opened the diary and was stunned when he saw the socks inside. "Dobby!" Lucius called out to his servant. "The master gave Dobby socks, and Dobby is free." Dobby held up the socks in the diary. "What? I didn't." Lucius turned around and saw Dobby, who was free, and Harry, who had rolled up his trouser legs. You caused me to lose my servant." Lucius pulled his wand out of his cane as he advanced towards Harry. Then he heard the sound of cloth fluttering, and an agile dragon with white scales spread its wings on the windowsill. "What's wrong? Go on. I'm just passing by. You guys go do your work." Aiden lowered his eyebrows, seeming a little sleepy. Lucius, who was standing under the eaves, froze. Helplessly he could only utter a harsh word. "You are just like your parents, you like to meddle in other people's affairs. Soon, you will suffer the same fate as them." Lucius' words seemed to have other implications, and then he was enveloped by the shock from the dream walker. He could no longer speak and fled in a hurry. Harry turned around to say thank you, but a gust of wind blew across his cheek and the dragon man on the windowsill had disappeared. "Oh, thank you for everything you have done for Dobby. Is there anything Dobby can do to repay you?" Dobby spoke to get Harry's attention. "Promise me, Dobby, don't try to save me again." Harry looked at Dobby. The two looked at each other and smiled. Aiden flew out from the windowsill, cast an disillusionment charm on himself, quietly landed on the Ravenclaw Tower, walked down from the rooftop, and was able to bypass the questions raised by the door knocker. Walking into the lounge, the little wizards were still flipping through various books. Aiden quickly walked down the stairs and returned to his dormitory. The three roommates didn't know where to go, and Aiden didn't care about that anymore. He crawled into his beloved little bed, ready to reward himself with a dream for his busy days.